key to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Kenya, my name is Mike Migwan. We are glad that you are watching KBC Channel 1. Of course, we are always here ready to start your morning in style. A lot is in store for you, and today being a Tuesday, we have people in politics and a lot that has been happening, including the fact that yesterday the CS Treasury, that is John Mbadi, speaking at Bunge la Mwananchi, said that there are no more VAT taxes. So that is one of the things that we are going to look out for. And also yesterday, students are going to receive funds under the old model, that is HELP, but this will only affect the first and second year students. And also there were irregularities that were identified by the Auditor General report of 2023 in NGCDF. So that is one of the things we are going to look at, and I'll be joined by Ken Odhiambo, who is an advocate of the High Court, and also Riziki Dunstan, who is a governance expert and also National Vice Chair, National Reconstruction Alliance Party. So that is a conversation you want to tune in after the news. Good morning, Vivian.
Good morning, Mike, and a very good morning to each and every one of you who is tuned in on the show. It is the 4th day of February, and today being a Tuesday, it is Health Tuesday right here on Good Morning Kenya. And what better topic to look into other than SHA, that is the Social Health Authority. There are a lot of questions surrounding SHA, and people just really want to know what exactly SHA is, and we will be having a conversation on exactly that. That is the state of the Social Health Authority. I will be joined by Gilbert Mugambi Osoro, who is the head of public education and awareness. We'll be looking at what exactly is SHA, what are some of the range of services available under SHA. Is it working or is it not working? You definitely want to stay tuned for that conversation. And of course, if you have any questions that you would love for me to direct to Mr. Gilbert, who will be in studio at around 9 a.m., feel free to send those questions on our social media handles, that is at KBC Channel 1. Marie, good morning.
Well, a very good morning to you, Vivian, Mike, and to all of you joining us from wherever you are. This is Good Morning Kenya. You're just in time for the show. Straight away to the highlights, where suspected terrorists lay ambush and kidnap 5 chiefs in Mandera. I'll bring you details of that, and Tanzania to host a joint SADC and EAC special summit over the escalating DRC crisis as President Tshisekedi and Kagame confirm attendance. And back in office, tribunal probing the conduct of Justice Mohamed Nur Kulo now clears him of all accusations leveled against him. Let's begin with matters tax, where National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi has assured Kenyans that the government will not introduce new taxes increases in the Finance Bill 2025 to fund the national budget. Addressing a Bunge la Mwananchi forum at the Jivanjee Gardens in Nairobi, Mbadi noted that the government is exploring alternative strategies to raise revenue, including widening the tax base and prioritizing fiscal discipline, as Trevor Ngendo now reports.
National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi engaged members of Bunge la Mwananchi in a spirited discussion on the state of the economy and the upcoming 2025-2026 budget. Mbadi acknowledged that past public participation forums have often targeted elite groups, leaving out a majority of ordinary Kenyans.
I respect any opinion, however you put it. Just tell me what you think. Even if you think bado ninafanya kazi bure sana, National Treasury, tell me so that I may consider whether to resign or to continue with my work.
Monday's forum at Givenchy Gardens in Nairobi City Centre provided a rare opportunity for citizens to engage directly with the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary on issues fueling the rising cost of living, debt sustainability and government's taxation policies.
I am really concerned about the well-being of our payslips as the working class.
The finance bill of this year may not have any tax adjustment upwards in terms of rates, which are we cannot overtax Kenyans anymore. We have reached a limit where we are saying no more space for taxation, especially on employment income. You will not see any more taxes on employment income.
The problem we have is, yes, unga has reduced from 250 to 150, but if you have zero in your pocket, you can't afford it even if it's 15 bob.
Kwa nini hujachukua hatua wowote ambaye amepatikana na hatua ya wizi achukuliwe hatua immediately na vitu zake anyang'anywe zote iwe vunzo kwa wengine?
How much took the State House renovation? Is it 10 billion or 2 billion?
Sahi tume renovate. So what you need to tell me, don't spend any more money on further renovations, isn't it? Juu hiyo nyumba ukiona sahi ni mzuri. Imekuwa renovated. Imechukua ile pesa imechukua.
Acknowledging the economic challenges facing many Kenyans, Mbadi underscored the need for tax reforms to enhance revenue collection without stifling economic growth or reducing disposable income for households.
What we want is a friendly KRA, which comes to you and tells you, you know, we have assessed you and you have not paid 80,000. What could have been the problem?
Ikiwa sisi zote wa Kenya tunashiriki, si ile rate tunalipishwa mmoja wetu itapungua? Si itapungua? Basi, na hiyo ndio utaratibu tungependa tuendelee nayo.
Participants emphasized on the need for greater transparency in how public funds are allocated and spent.
At the heart of today's discussions here at the Bunge la Mwananchi is a shared desire for real progress and accountability. While there's still some skepticism about the upcoming finance bill, many here feel that this open discussion is a great step in the right direction towards bridging the gap between the government and the public, especially in budget-making process.
Thank you, Trevor Ngendo, for that report. Now, the tribunal investigating suspended judge of the Environmental and Land Court Justice Mohammed Nur Kulo has recommended his reinstatement after clearing him of all 13 charges leveled against him. Presenting its report to President William Ruto at State House, Nairobi, the tribunal led by Judge Omwenga Kiage said the allegations of gross misconduct, including delaying delivery of rulings and holding case files, were neither established nor proved. Giverson Minor now reports.
After investigations lasting 4 months, Justice Mohammed Kulo has been cleared of accusations of gross misconduct.
We find that the judge's conduct was not in breach of the Judicial Service Act, Code of Conduct and Ethics Regulations 2020.
Myself and the rest of the people that have a responsibility over this matter will pick it up from there and move it to the next step.
The Environment and Land Court judge was suspended in March 2024 by the President after the Judicial Service Commission upheld accusations by petitioners, amongst them a German investor.
Allegations 1, 2, 3, 12, and 13 were not established. There was delay, but it was satisfactorily explained with reasonable justification and thus did not amount to gross misconduct.
The charges include delaying delivery of rulings and judgments, failure to give explanations for the delay, failing to respond to correspondence from the Chief Justice, and holding a case file, hence denying a party the right to appeal. The Judge Omwenga Kiage-led tribunal found that the accusations did not meet the threshold for removal from office.
Allegation 6 was not proved. The delay in response was due to the Honorable Judge's absence from station, and he responded at the earliest opportunity. Allegation number 7 was not proved. It was not the Honorable Judge's responsibility to issue notices for the delivery of judgments. We therefore, Your Excellency, recommend that Your Excellency do reinstate the Honorable Judge to the office of Judge of the Environment and Land Court.
President William Ruto, while receiving the report, said the recommendations will be implemented, saying all citizens, including judicial officers, are subject to the Constitution and the law, irrespective of their status.
By submitting ourselves to processes that are provided for by the law does not amount in any way to admitting either guilt or breach of whatever provisions of the law.
And police were on Monday forced to lob tear gas to disperse a group of students who had staged a march at the offices of the Higher Education's Loans Board to express their frustrations over the delay in the disbursement of student loans. Meanwhile, the ongoing go-slow by lecturers at the Technical University of Kenya disrupted the administration of examinations. The development came even as the government announced that it had disbursed 21 billion shillings to help to be advanced to the learners.
Traffic along the Uhuru Highway was briefly disrupted on Monday as students engaged police in running battles over the advancement of loans. The students had sought answers from the Higher Education Loans Board on why their allocations had been delayed.
Today we're out on the streets to demand for our HELB money's disbursement, which has delayed by almost 1 month, in fact more than a month right now.
But the Treasury Cabinet Secretary, while addressing the public at the Jivanji Gardens, announced that the government had disbursed the loans.
HELB, we have released 21 out of 31. UFB, we have released 8 out of 16. The total is 30 billion that we have released.
The university funding model is currently a subject of litigation. Across town, students at the Technical University of Kenya were left stranded after lecturers refused to invigilate the end of semester examinations.
We were supposed to begin our exams today, and we came here and there was nobody to supervise us. First, we can't do exam when our lecturers are not happy. We demand that our lecturers be sorted, is when we can return and do the exams.
These are internal exams that are only moderated and examined and administered by the lecturers. So any other mode of administering those exams would have been highly illegal.
The tutors who have been on strike for a fortnight are accusing the government of failing to honor a return-to-work formula signed last year.
We did a petition and we addressed 3 arms of government. Number 1, the National Assembly, because they appropriate funds. Number 2, the Minister of Education, because they're the ones who are supposed to do the requisition for the funds. And number 3, Treasury, because these are the people who share the national cake somehow. And we took a petition there.
The lecturers say they will sustain the strike until their demands are met.
The government is set to hand over the complete units of the affordable housing project in Mukuru in the next 2 months. Among the beneficiaries of the project is Milka Mura, that is the lady whose story hit the headlines on social media after being embarrassed by a local televangelist when she asked for help to offset her rental arrears a fortnight ago. Now the houses will be handed over by President William Ruto.
The saying "from grass to grace" is evident on Milka Mura, who is set to benefit from the affordable housing in Mukuru 2 weeks after she was embarrassed by a televangelist when she sought help to offset her rent arrears. Her humiliation turning to a blessing in disguise as she bids farewell to a life of a squalor.
Pastor alinirushanisha time yenye nilikuwa namweleza shida zangu. Nikaumika kwa moyo, but nikajipea tu moyo, nikajua Mungu atanitetea kwa kila hali na hiyo shida yenye nilikuwa nimepitia.
The tiny room measuring 9.2 square feet that had been locked by her landlord literally has no space as it is jumbled up with water jerrycans, her personal effects, beddings and her children. She has been living in a sorry state faced with risks of caving building with unsafe water for consumption.
Hali yake si mzuri juu hapo hata kwa ground ndio wameweka bohol ya maji na sewage inafikanga ina block. Wenye ina block hiyo sewage inaingia kwa hiyo maji yenye walikuwa wanatupea.
Well-wishers, among them Samuel Ndimu, a Kenyan cop, came to her rescue, raising funds that enable her secure an affordable housing studio at a cost of 640,000 shillings.
Mora lives in Mukuru. She pays a rent of 4,000 Kenya shillings per month, which she had been unable to raise. And luckily, because of Kenyans of goodwill, she now has a job she's paying, which is getting paid around 18,000 Kenya shillings. And with that, she can be able to afford having a house at one of our major projects, that's Mukuru, where we have over 13,000 units, which are undergoing constructions currently.
She also opted to pay the cost of the house upfront or take up the rent to own model, where she will be required to pay 3,900 shillings per month.
Naweza ambia serikali asante kwa kunisaidia na waendelee tu kunisaidia mahali pa kukaa.
The mother of two in her new abode will enjoy unfettered access to clean water, reticulated gas, social amenities, and automated lift, while her children enjoy learning in a school located in the compound.
We head to the Congo crisis, where the Southern African Development Community and the East African Community will have a joint summit this Friday and Saturday to discuss the conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The summit will be hosted by President Samia Suluhu in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and the chair of the SADC and the EAC have both agreed to attend that particular meeting.
Following the agreement between Southern African Development Community Chairperson Emmerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe and his East African Community counterpart William Ruto, the two-day summit will be hosted in Tanzania. Presidents Felix Tshisekedi of the DRC and President Paul Kagame of Rwanda have confirmed attendance at the meeting, which will be preceded by a ministerial meeting on Friday before the heads of state convene on Saturday. President Ruto, having engaged Presidents Cyril Ramaphosa, Yoweri Museveni and Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud, confirmed their participation in the extraordinary summit.
To business, where plans are underway to increase the land under irrigation to at least 1 million acres over the next 5 years by increasing investments in water harvesting, storage reservoirs, and optimizing infrastructure. Irrigation Principal Secretary Ephantus Kimotho says 80% of Kenya's landmass is classified as arid and semi-arid areas with enormous agricultural potential that, if fully tapped, will address food insecurity and reduce reliance on imports. Kimotho says desiltation of water ponds and sinking boreholes in arid and semi-arid areas will mitigate against water and fodder challenges.
Of ASAL, we have arable land in ASAL, but 80% of our country is ASAL, and we have arable land. The only challenge we have in the ASAL is that we don't have water. So again, NISIP tries to address the issue of water security. We are looking at how we can be able to build water structures, build dams, build check dams from the laggers. We are looking forward to having various engagements. We'll be having various memorandum of understanding with them with an intention of coming up with a program that will be able to catalyze private capital, because in this program, most of we entail to get almost 70%. From 30% of it may be funded by government, but 70% of it will be mainly be funded by 30% of it will be funded by government and development partners. 70% we expect it to be funded by private sector and climate funding.
And Southern Africa has threatened to mobilize Africa to withhold its minerals from the United States in response to a threat by U.S. President Donald Trump to cut off funding to South Africa over its land policy. South Africa's Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, Gwende Muntashe, responded in an X post that if the U.S. cuts its funding, Africa should not give America minerals.
President Cyril Ramaphosa defended South Africa's land policy after U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to cut off funding because of what he said were land confiscations. Trump said, and I quote, "South Africa is confiscating land and certain classes of people being treated very badly," end of quote, adding that he would cut funding until the matter was investigated. In January, South Africa enacted into law a bill that sets forth new guidelines for land expropriation, including enabling the government to seize land without compensation in some cases. Ramaphosa said the law was not a confiscation instrument, but a legal process that ensures public access to land in an equitable and just manner as guided by the Constitution. Meanwhile, Trump has hinted the European Union could be the next to face tariffs on EU goods imported into the United States, which he said could happen pretty soon. Trump told journalists that there is a high trade imbalance between the European Union and the US, especially on cars, food and farm produce. The 27-member bloc has condemned Trump's decision to move ahead with tariffs against Canada, Mexico and China, and warned that it will respond firmly if it also becomes a target. On trade with the UK, the US president said the country has been out of line, but added that the issues could be resolved. Trump says the sweeping tariffs that he has imposed on Mexico, Canada and China may cause a short-term pain for Americans as global stock markets are tumbled on concerns that the levies will spark an economically damaging trade war. Trump plans to hold talks with the leaders of Canada and Mexico, which have announced retaliatory tariffs of their own, but downplayed expectations that they would change his mind. US President Trump's tariffs will cover almost half of all US imports and will require the United States to more than double its own manufacturing output to cover the gap. Economists said the US president's plan to impose 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and 10% tariffs on China, which are the United States' three largest trading partners, will slow global growth and drive prices higher for Americans. The Chinese yuan, Canadian dollar and Mexican peso all slumped against the soaring dollar.
And that report by Alan Alco brings us to the end of the news this morning. Thank you, as always, for your company. My name is Marie Ambo, and coming up next is my colleague Mike Migwe with People and Politics.
Pindi tunapowasha vifaa vyetu, tunapata fursa ya kutangamana na wasikilizaji wetu.
Karibu sana thĩinĩ wa tabarĩra ya Rwiga.
Tunapeperusha utangazaji uliobobea katika habari,
nĩ ũndũ wa macio na mangĩ maingĩ,
burudani,
haha nĩ harĩa tũkoragwo tũkĩigua nyĩmbo mwaki nyĩmbo hot
na hamasisho la kiroho. Usiachwe nyuma. Jiunge nasi kwa safari ya kufana katika 99.5 FM. Shoro FM.
Client still hopes to have a young director, so I strongly recommended you to our boss.
Is this your home? You don't know where to put anything. You can't find this or that. Am I your maid?
Jinping.
Oh, she shot so many ads. Wow. Oh. Won many awards.
You just told me this morning and I forgot? I strongly recommended you to my boss. Now she wants to meet you, but it's only available this afternoon.
How can this be called hasty? It shows your company is efficient. We can only hope to meet more clients like you.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
The young generation awakens on Y254, the leading youth TV station in Kenya. We treat you to current affairs, entrepreneurship, health, and human interest conversations.
It's art, it's culture.
Movies, gossip and trends, sports,
drama.
We bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
To keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are such a vibe.
Y254. Imagine.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
You do realize Kikara akijua vile unafanya atakupeleka mbio sana.
You should be thanking me for taking care of this situation.
We've already done enough harm.
There is no we.
What?
Sio lazima mdosie.
Blackie didn't kill himself, did he?
Kaikara akijua hii story, hata mimi naondolewa.
You are the law for crying out loud.
Do you trust Dan and his boss?
You cannot trust dirty cops.
Be careful.
Your advice is saidia saizi.
I found him at J&J.
Ulienda kufanya nini huko? You want me to ask you the same question twice?
Let me call you after an hour or so.
Huyo ni nani?
Ni simu za kazi tu. Can you tell me the reason why I'm here?
Loyalty cannot be taught.
Mi sielewi. I don't understand this story yote.
You must learn to be content with what you get.
Apologies for that technical hitch, but welcome back and thank you for staying with us here on Good Morning Kenya. You're watching People and Politics. My name is Mike. Maybe we take a quick look at what is making headlines in our local dailies before we get into our day's conversation. And let me start with the Daily Nation. Inside Ruto's policy U-turns, that is what is splashed on the front page of the Daily Nation. HELB releases upkeep cash to university students who had stormed city offices. Now here they're saying, faced with the dilemma of a nationwide public university student strike and compliance with a court order, the government has reverted to the old funding model to send money to learners, adding to a growing list of shift back to the old order in what is becoming a trend for the Kenya Kwanza government, for the Kenya Kwanza regime. Whenever changes it seeks to implement run into headwinds. That story is told on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Probe reveals big mess at Afi House, at a multiplicity of laws, regulatory authorities, and lack of proper data has created chaos at the Ministry of Health. The Presidential Task Force on Human Resource for Health has told MPs. Task Force Chairperson Hama Rogo yesterday told National Assembly's Committee on Health that the ministry has many conflicting policy documents. That story is told on the back page of the Daily Nation. How Al-Shabaab abducted 5 chiefs in Mandera. What was supposed to be a routine exercise to screen applicants seeking national identity cards has turned into a major security scare after the administrators were seized and driven towards Somalia. That story is told on page 3 of the Daily Nation. Let's look at what is making headlines in the Standard. Chiefs abducted. A day before President William Ruto embarks on a tour of northeastern Kenya, a suspected Al-Shabaab terrorists struck, picking up 5 administrators who were planning the visit. That story is told on page 4 and 5 of the Standard newspaper. Boundaries woes to get worse after AG plea. The Attorney General has told Supreme Court judges that there is no time to review boundaries, meaning the 2027 poll will be conducted with outdated unit. That is a story you can read on page 8. New NSSF rate to trim pay further business. That is told on page 35 of the Standard. Ramaphosa versus Trump over land policy. Read that story on page 37 of the Standard newspaper. Why 2025 promises political fireworks. Gachagua is already working to build new alliances with Azimio's Top Gun as disgruntled by Raila Odinga. That story is told on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. Gachagua allies in committees targeted in fresh radical purge. President William Ruto and opposition chief Raila Odinga's troops are plotting radical changes in the leadership and membership of the parliamentary committees. Former DP Rigathi Gachagua's allies, chairpersons, vice chairpersons, and absentee members are among those who are targeted in the looming purge. That story is told on page 6 of the Star newspaper, so you can get your favorite local daily and read what they are saying. Now I'm joined by Advocate Ken Odhiambo, who is an advocate of the High Court. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, thank you.
And also Riziki Dunstan, who is a lawyer and also governance expert and the National Vice Chair, National Reconstruction Alliance Party. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yes, karibu sana. Now, let's just go through what is making headlines in this local dailies. Inside Ruto's policy U-turns, faced with the dilemma of a nationwide public university students and compliance with the court order, the government has reverted to the old funding model. Let me start with you, Wakili Ken. What do you make of this?
I think the new funding model that was being introduced, I think it was had not been, the consultation had not been done properly. I think it was the issue that was made by some people that did not consult the stakeholders. So now that it is not working, there's an outcry from students and I think the universities. So now they have to go back to that old one. I think the real issue was not consulting the stakeholders. So now implementation was a problem because the funding model, how to know who to fund, that alone. What they were saying, we will give different amounts without really proper framework on how you determine who to get and who not to get. So now with that failing, with now universities being crippled, students almost going on a riot, now that U-turn was necessary.
Yes.
Yes, I think that is why they're making that decision to change to the old system. Maybe they'll come with the new one, but I think after proper consultation, maybe.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but I think the issue has been not consulting, making a decision without reaching out to people, the consumers of that fund. So if you don't reach out to them and know how it was being done, then now you're supposed to, you face that backlash.
Yes.
So you have to go back to the old system.
All right. Yes. Riziki, what do you think of this? Because this is the help. Here they're accepting state resorts to help to release upkeep cash to students to avert a crisis after the new funding model was blocked by the courts.
Actually, the first major problem that this administration faces is the aspect of compliance, legal compliance with the Constitution. Article 10 of the Constitution gives parameters, and one of the parameters that any state ought to adhere to is public participation. The courts or the implementation of various legislative statutes and policies ought to be taken through that process of public participation, and the failure to take the kind of policies and regulations through public participation was the Waterloo, or is the Waterloo of this administration, because majority of the decisions, majority of the policies have not been able to be accepted or taken through that public participation, and that is the basis of these regulations or these policies being thrown out. So going forward, probably what the administration ought to do is basically they ought to adhere to Article 10 of the Constitution that guarantees or gives the framework of public participation. The Supreme Court was also very categorical on aspects of how public participation ought to be taken through. The public or the consumers or the stakeholders in the entire process ought to be informed. The other aspect is the public participation and the stakeholders, in this case the students, the process by which the identification of the various bands are done or is taken through has not been clearly stipulated. And assuming it's clear, then it will really give the basis or the pedestal upon which the entire process, the entire funding model is going to be embedded. But far beyond that, we're also seeing that the education sector at large is also facing a number of upheavals, more so with the aspect of capitation, the aspect of staffing, also the administration. There are a number of malpractices within the universities. You're seeing more university also having issues in terms of mismanagement and maladministration. So basically the entire education sector, if you're looking at it, it's not just about probably the capitation and the funding model. There are other minor challenges that come put together form a major problem. If you look at almost all the universities are facing issues of issues of funding, issues of administration, and probably assuming we ought to streamline the education sector. It's not about only funding, but also about the culture. It's about the professionalism of the institutions. It's about how the senates of those institutions are appointed. So, I can say it's a combo. If you have to do a number of things to make them right. So going forward, the entire education sector needs to say a sort of rethinking in terms of how they are going to do their things.
Now that you're talking about these issues to do with policy, do you think that in a way they were rushed to be implemented without fully understanding if they work or not?
Yes, I think that's the biggest problem, we must say, with the administration. I think there could be a very small group that makes the decision, and then they want to roll it out. So now, before you roll something out, then you must really know who really consumed this service. Yes. How has it been done before? What is wrong with the old way of doing things? And then what will the new model or new changes, which positive impact will they bring in that sector? But then if you bring, there's something we call, in law we used to call it legal transplanting. and this one I also call it policy transplanting.
Yeah.
That you pick a policy from wherever it is, then you want to put it in an environment that you don't know that will work. It is bound to fail because of the different circumstances that prevail. So probably someone goes somewhere, looks at a policy from maybe a different country, you bring it, you throw it into our system, you don't know how it will come out, then it fails.
So it's like a trial and error?
Yes. So I think that is where we are. So I think if we are more of take time, because the education system is so big in Kenya. It is so big. So if you want to change it, I believe it may even take 5 years to make you want to change a system like an education say that is so big. I think it takes a lot of time. So for you to implement it, I believe it may even take a lot of time for its implementation. You can start discussing, then even take 5 years. But if you want to discuss it today, then maybe in 2 months you are implementing. Obviously, it's going to fail. So I think this is what is happening, and more is going to happen if this is the approach that we are going to adopt going forward.
You also look at the challenges that things like SHA are facing, the complaints that have come, the inefficiencies, and now the reverting back to old funding model. Was it necessary to do away with it immediately, or first we would have looked at the loopholes within those systems, correct them, and before we introduce new things? Wakili Riziki.
The first thing is probably around SHA and other new programs that the government is trying to introduce. The major problem that they are facing is lack of seamless transition. Yes. So anytime you have a seamless lack of seamless transition, is basically you are playing Russian roulette in the sense that you are shooting yourself on the head, and by virtue of doing that, you are bound to die. So if you look at for example, SHA, as much as probably it has not, it has withstood the legal challenges in court, the seamless transition has not happened in terms of the consumers, in terms of the stakeholders being involved, in terms of knowing how the funds are collected, in terms of how the payments are cleared, and all that. So the major problem that we are facing is that aspect of lack of consultation, the aspect of rushing through government projects and programs, the aspect of lack of a legislative framework that is so detailed that may be able to counter or be able to handle any problems that might come along the way. So most of our legislative framework, and that's why you're seeing them being challenged in court, are not watertight in the sense that they only address the substance but not the procedure. So the lack of a substantive framework that addresses all the challenges that might come out of a particular policy is what will really be the basis of these challenges. So if you want to handle or how laws are prepared, then that budget, the procedural aspect will have been that, first of all, what is the policy? What is the government policy on, let's say, on SHA? Then after that, then that policy should be the basis of legislation. But if you have the legislation first and then policy come later on, that's why you have these challenges, because policy will have addressed the real issues, the teething problems, as to who are the people, who are the beneficiaries, how the payment is done. Do you have a system? So why do you have a legislation first, then you go and procure a system? It means that you are starting from is topsy-turvy in the sense that you are starting from the head and not from
climbing the tree from the top.
Yeah, so it is first of all, come up with a policy, come up with a system, right? Then pilot it. Actually, that is how best you can be able to achieve some of these things. For example, I've said if SHA, pilot it for some time first and see how it's implemented, what are the challenges, see how best to address those challenges, then come now implement it. Same to the university model, the funding model. We have very many institutions right now handling the issues of university funding. The courts have pronounced themselves on a number of the university fund, then constitutionality of the university fund. The court has pronounced itself now on the funding model as it is. So as we collapse, for example, the president through the executive order collapsed some of these institutions into a single institution. So assuming that is done, then how best will you be able to explain? So when you are funding education, how do you fund it? Because the university fund by itself has been declared unconstitutional. The president has probably agreed with it and collapsed the university fund together with the Higher Education Loans Board. So by virtue of that, there's already a crisis because you don't know which is this institution that is basically given the responsibility or the mandate to govern the entire educational process. So probably there's need of the stakeholder thinking and really come up with one clear approach towards education funding. If we are pursuing a collapsed, or a conjoined funding model, then let's go by it. Then probably have the necessary amendments towards the law to achieve that. If you're pursuing, funding through help, as we know have reverted to, then also make the necessary amendments to the law to enable that. The other thing is that some of these universities also have their own acts. They have their own laws that really govern the entire process, and probably rethink the entire education sector. Do we need, what is this percentage from our GDP that we are using to fund our university, more so the areas of research, so that universities are also not necessarily just dependent on the funding model, but also the university should also generate money and income through research, through a number of things others are able to do business in other countries. So we ought to rethink, re-engineer the entire education model or the university funding model and anchor it on our GDP, in the sense that what is this international required standard that our GDP, 1% of our GDP ought to go towards funding the university model, funding the university and research in the universities. So this can be one of the avenues through which we can also generate money for our universities. And I think that is the way other countries are doing. South Africa is doing that. Canada is doing that. Probably we ought to go the same way.
Right. Wakili, Dunstan here raises something about the implementation, but also something to do with procedure. The procedure now of implementation of these policies. So does it mean that when we are coming up with policies, we do not take a holistic look at it, especially when it comes to the implementation part of it?
Ordinarily, when you come with a legislative instrument, an act of parliament, they are always what we call regulations. So regulations are now operationalized as the act. So sometimes you realize that regulations come much later, after passing of an act of parliament. So now that is why an act of parliament becomes operative, but then now they say that there will be regulations to be made by a minister. So now you have those regulations, they still not be in place to operationalize the act. So if you start using that act before those regulations, you're going to have those procedural problems talking about. But after regulations are out, so you realize the regulations come much later, because they're made actually by a minister now. So now that is where the procedural aspects come in. We have an act just lays out the framework, the structures, the body that will implement it. Then now we have regulations that now in detail says what to be done to make the act operational. So I think that is where the problem is. So the main issue is how the speed with which we try to implement some of these things. If we take time, come up with regulations, now to operationalize the act, so that is easy. You tell someone, these are the regulations. They're already been gazetted. So now they can easily follow up on them. But if you come up with an act of parliament, it starts operation. No one knows what it is, how to even go about it. Then there's a problem. So I think I would want to agree with my colleague on that aspect, that the procedure in terms of now regulations not being there in time, but you are already implementing, already running with the idea. Obviously it won't work. So until those regulations come in place, people really know what you need to do, because you'll find an act of parliament, a section simply saying you are required to do this. But then now, how do you actually do it? That now comes in the regulations. So sometimes they're not even there in time. So I think that is the procedural technicality that my colleague is talking about. Yes.
Now, there's a story here on the front page of the Standard, and boundaries woe to get was after AG plea. The Attorney General has told Supreme Court judges that there's no time to review boundaries, meaning the 2027 poll will be conducted with outdated units. What do you think of that? Because we are 1 year past the deadline that was supposed to be there for delimitation of boundaries. Let me start with you, Akili Ken.
Yes.
What do you think of that, and what does it mean now that we might go to 2027 without delimitation of boundaries?
Okay. Speaking, IBC is just coming into place. So that exercise could not have been done before. So actually, most people knew it was not going to happen. There were some boundaries that were supposed to be created.
Yes.
That is not I know of some constituencies that were supposed to be split. Now that's not going to happen. So for me, I would read the deliberateness in just ensuring that these things don't happen.
Yes.
Yes, because how do you call it? You decided to curtail something legally. So now it's not you, it is the law that stops you. There's no time. So if you say there's no time, there's nothing that can be done about it. So this I think was was a deliberate attempt to not really change anything. But again, looking at it, I really don't think that will really affect. It will affect service delivery to the people. It will not really affect the political framework of our country. But again, it will affect service delivery because there are areas that are too big for governance. So now they need to be reduced so that there's service closer to the people. Because you find a constituency that is so big, some constituencies are so big in this country that service delivery, when they get the same amount of money from from for example the national government, with the big size they have, then there's a problem. There'll be service delivery to the people will be affected. So if we had time, if these things would have been done earlier, IBC was in place very early. These are things that could have been addressed. But as it is, I think we'll have to wait a little longer.
Yes.
Maybe after the next election to start the process of now creating those boundaries. But the people who are going to suffer most now are the people who come from these areas that needed to be split so that services are brought closer to the people.
Yes. The IEBC had sought an advisory from the Supreme Court regarding this matter. It's something I want you to touch on once we come back from this short break. Don't go too far. This is Good Morning Kenya.
Wellness is important in our daily lives so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have by regular checkup. People don't know they have hypertension. They don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Simfungulie huyu. Ati? Nimesema sifunguliwe huyu. Sasa basi nakupa ruksa. Nenda ukaishi huko.
Toroka. Rudi mafichoni Kalume utakuja shikwa.
Usinikumbushe Sudi.
Nini mpenzi?
Wewe ukitaka kujua mtu mzima na meno 32 nitetee na mpenzi.
Hakuna cha lakini. Nilikuwepo, sikuambiwa.
Habarisha wanakisiwa wote kwamba yeyote atakayeniletea taarifa za aliko Kalume nitampatia donge nono. Hebu toka nje. Toa ama nikumalize. Simama hapo. Wewe.
Nataka uambie hawa watu lile jambo ulikuja kusema hapa jana usiku.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
Thank you for staying with us. This is People and Politics. My name is Mark Migui. We are having this conversation with Ken Odhiambo, who is an advocate of the High Court, and also Riziki Dunstan, who is a lawyer and governance expert. Before we went on a break, we were talking about matters to do with IEBC, and they had sought an advisory on whether to proceed with the limitation and other aspects within or activities within the commission without the commissioners. And now here, the AG has moved to block IEBC advisory request on boundary delimitation. What do you think of that, Dunstan?
One, you know, the AG as a principal government advisor, for that matter, she probably has information that we might not have. She's privy to information that we probably might not have. And it's not largely, might not largely be legal, but might be political in nature. Two, I foresee a situation whereby the entire process, you know, we're just coming to a point of, you know, having the selection panel begin its duties. And the selection panel also has a number of challenges. So if a selection panel begins its duty and appoints the commissioners, then the commissioners will now, the commission will now be constituted legally to be able to do a number of things, and one of those things is the delimitation of the boundaries. And the limitation of boundaries is also a constitutional mandate for the commission. Being a constitutional mandate for the commission, therefore, we expect that the Supreme Court will also, if not now, then later on, will be challenged on the legality, assuming they uphold the position of the AG. The Supreme Court probably in the how do you call it? In the 2027 elections, will be challenged on the legality of their advisory. And by the very nature that the advisory opinion are not binding. Is basically a direction that you give, Article 163 of the Constitution. You know, you're just giving you know, guidance to the various government organs that are supposed to, or information, or, you know, guiding them to adhere to a particular legal framework. This has also been subject to also debate, because when you seek an advisory opinion from the Supreme Court, which is the highest, you know, court in the land, then what does it leave? If they gave you a wrong advisory, for example, do you just, you know, stick by it? Because what are the options? So looking at it futuristic is that I foresee a situation whereby the aspects of representation, you know, the political rights, the aspect of representation are very categorical or very clear, or in terms of how they ought to be achieved. 2027 might be a legal landmine in the sense that, assuming you are a voter in, for example, Kandui. Kandui has a population of about 140,000 voters as a constituency. And you feel unrepresented in comparison with a voter from Budalangi, for example. then can you be able to challenge, that you are not well represented, as my colleague has shared? So we ought not to see this delimitation and advisory opinion only from the perspective of the composition of the IBC alone. But let us look at it futuristic. Will it be the basis of Supreme Court challenges in 2027? Because assuming you don't correct the mess right now, and there's a constitutional mess, and then this mess will remain there and then come to haunt us in 2027. But alive to the challenges and the timelines, then we also agree that probably the delimitation might not be done between now and 2027 because the commissioners are not in place. They'll just be in place for a short time. Then they start preparing for the election, that is having the voter registration, which is a continuous process. But we have a number of by-elections. Their in tray is already full. You have by-elections both for MPs and for MCAs. We have a number of issues that they ought to now bring sanity and order. They have to inspire confidence in the entire IBC commission at large. So the in tray is full. The timelines for the limitations are limited. But again, what is the law? Because the delimitation is also a constitutional function. Well, assuming the commissioners don't adhere to it, don't we see a situation whereby there will be a lot of challenges, the legal challenges towards its functionality?
Yes. Wakili Ken, is an advisory, should it be based on law or is it an interpretation of the law?
Okay. The Supreme Court has an advisory jurisdiction under the Constitution. I think it's article around 163 that gives it powers to give advisory opinion. And I think it's for good reason. And I think the national government, even the AG has gone to the Supreme Court before to seek for an advisory opinion, just to be safe that we've given the Supreme Court the jurisdiction, probably because it is the highest court. So it has that by law. So now, anybody, IBC, any state organ, even the county government and national government can go to the Supreme Court and say, what is your understanding of this provision? And then from there now, will you be in compliance if we proceed in this manner? So anyone can always put a reference before the Supreme Court to get a legal advisory opinion on how to proceed. Of course, if that matter is not pending before any other court. So like what you've said, IBC is seeking an opinion. Of course, the AG should not be opposing. The AG should only give an opinion. Its opinion on what the IBC seeks an advisory on. So really, I wouldn't call it opposing as much, but they should give their opinion on what they think it should be.
Her argument here is that the Secretariat cannot sue on behalf of IBC, and the advisory sought is defective, and there are no commissioners in place, and there is no urgency on the matter, as time has already lapsed. Of course, there are other reasons she has given, but the aspect of time, having no commissioners, and the Secretariat cannot sue. So some of the reasons she has given.
I think that's a very active opposition. Yes. Or rather, they would have not challenged it on a technicality, because that's really a technical opposition. It is not actually based on fact. It is simply saying you don't even have the capacity to seek an opinion. For me, I think that's a very wrong approach. The best approach would have been you let them seek that opinion. Let the Supreme Court give its advisory. The AG maybe should challenge it on something else, or not even challenge it, give his opinion on why they think, what they think that advisory should be. So that the Supreme Court can consider their opinion. But challenging in terms of even saying that you should not even go to the Supreme Court, I think it's more of a serious attack actually on the IBC, in my view. But IBC is also a constitutional body created by a constitution. I think they have a legitimate right to proceed to the Supreme Court. Any state organ can do that. So for the head, AG as being the chief legal advisor to the government of Kenya, making such a serious attack or rather opposition to that advisory, more so on a technicality. I mean, that will tell you the government position. Actually, what is happening there is that's the government position. Because the chief, you don't speak, you speak for your client, and the client of the AG is the government.
Yes.
So now, that's the government position. That IBC, you should not even be seen at the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Yes, because you are not even constituted.
Yeah.
I would rather have had them challenging it on something else. That let the Supreme Court say so.
Yeah.
Yes.
What does this advisory mean for posterity? Is it just for now, or just for? It also affects the future. Should something like this happen?
The reason why this advisory we came up with this, and I think there's something we call in law the mischief rule. That what do we intend to avert?
Yes.
By coming up with this idea that we get an advisory was, I think, for good order. So that if you are in doubt, to avoid going several steps, and then it turns out all those that you are doing is anality. Why can't we just go to court first and ask them, what is your idea if we proceed in this manner? So that when you are moving forward, your actions are actually anchored in an advice and an opinion from a court. And the Supreme Court is a big bench. So as much as they would be wrong, we would assume that with the caliber of the court and the number of people that are going to hear, give you the opinion, it is more likely to be useful. So I think it was for avoiding situations where you proceed recklessly, you reach some place, you've already spent resources, then now all that becomes anality and you have to go back to square one. Yes, I think that was why we came up with that decision.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course, we are going to keep tabs on that development and inform you accordingly. Let's talk about that something important that happened yesterday. The CS Treasury, that is John Mbadi, went to Bunge la Mwananchi Forum to talk about government policies and matters country's finance. First of all, let me start with you. What do you think of that move, going to a forum like Bunge la Mwananchi?
I think that's the way the government should run, because to avert these aspects of lack of public participation, but more importantly is also the basis of a participatory leadership, so that you are able to hear what a common Mwananchi thinks about government policy. If you listened to the presentation of or the debates that are going on there, they were very informative debates. Probably ideas that will not have been vented out in other channels, but through that kind of forum, they were able to share their ideas. So the leadership should not just be this armchair and office kind of leadership. And public participation should not be very, in terms of straitjacket kind of approach, but that reaching out to the people through such kind of forums should be encouraged. Actually, the budget making process through the National Assembly has budget for that, for public participation. So as they begin off this process, that aspect of engaging the public is actually budgeted for. So it is a better use of mostly our funds, is a prudent use of our funds, but also it gives a 3D dimension towards what ought to be a participatory government for me.
Wakili, I want to get your sentiments on this, and also, is this a future of public participation from where you stand, especially when it comes to matters budget making process, and also is it an effective way?
Yes, I think the issue was effectiveness. I think that's the issue, because I saw it yesterday, and I think it is good PR, very good. Actually, it will make a government look good if they would proceed in that manner. Now the question is, how effective is it? Okay, these things that are being the citizenry were saying will need to be taken into account. Because, you know, you can say now, we are hearing you. You've been complaining. Now we are here. Tell us. Now, you've been told. Will they be actually taken into account when they are coming up with policy, when you are doing implementation? So that is the issue. That is the biggest issue. Because the public participation is much bigger. It goes also to quality of the public participation and relevance also. Because also, you realize, if you, like what we are talking about, the funding model for universities, you do public participation, but you decide to go to Muduro market for public consultation on university funding. You may hear all manner of views, but will you also get the quality opinions on it? Are you also consulting the right people on it? Yes, there's public participation, but then you go to what I saw yesterday. It is good. They'll air their views. I saw the KRA chairman and all that. They were talking about how discussing with the people what they'll need to do. I saw somebody talking about it. And, but now the question is, one, the groups you're meeting, will it be enough to just meet a crowd? You don't know what they do. You don't know anything. You don't know their knowledge in the area you are doing public participation on. So that whatever they tell you may not even be used. So I think that route was good in terms of making the government look good, considering that it has been accused, and rightly so, for failing to involve the people. So this time, what they did is a step in the right direction. But the question is, will it be effective enough to be useful? One, those ideas, were they being recorded? Was there anywhere to put them in? Or it was just that noise, then people go back? And then also the issue of the type of crowd. I've always seen this budget policies when they're doing budgeting for the counties.
Yes.
They write the halls that people will be meeting in. But I think now you should be able to have various groups participating. General public, there are also other people who have more understanding on these issues, also participating. So that when you sit down, you are able to compare it with your team as a government, and then now coming up with a better, with better policies. But what happened if it can continue going? And then we see the feedback. Whether, because now, somebody talking about that there will be no tax, there may be no tax increase in the new finance bill.
Yes, especially when it comes to employment income.
Yes. So I think it was very clear. There may be no increase. So even the minister is not very sure. The cabinet secretary is not sure about what will be in the finance bill as much. So he's just saying there may be no serious changes that we are going to introduce in terms of taxes in the new finance bill. So I think when they're meeting people next, the best thing would have been when they come to the people, they have that data, that this is what is going to be there. What are your opinions? What I was seeing yesterday was more a generalized venting session. That's what I would want to call it. Because it was not a very guided conversation. Everyone was saying everything, from price of unga to money in their pockets. So it was all, everything, things were all over. People are just discussing everything. So I think next time they may be able to tell them, we are coming to Jivanji, but we are coming to discuss 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we are coming with what we intend to do. So that people attack those issues directly. But now, what I saw, though good, a good start, but it was more of a venting session. People just airing out their emotions and their frustrations.
As you come into that, the effectiveness of such forums should be measured in terms of the way their ideas are taken, considered, and implemented.
One, you see, in the Court of Appeal decision of Tata versus the Cabinet Secretary of Finance, which I think forms the basis of this public engagement, Umtata's argument was that any time you do public participation, the reasons for refusal of an idea or the reason of taking up an idea should be given or should be noted. And that is now the law. That anytime you do public participation, the presumption is that whatever you are seeing now is a precursor of what the Treasury intends to achieve. Reason being, we don't have the finance bill out yet. Once it's out, then anytime you engage with that document and you give your views and reasons, then any idea that is given by such a forum or by such a group of people, an organized group of people, they ought to give a memoranda first, either in writing. They ought to share the ideas the way they are sharing yesterday. And Treasury and the finance committee of the National Assembly, assuming they refuse an idea and they think probably it is not appropriate or probably it can be implemented in phases, the law as it is right now requires that they ought to give the public the reason for their refusal. Actually, that will be the biggest hurdle for this year's finance bill. Yes. Because the law has given another requirement that if people are saying that we don't want to be charged, for example, a particular tax, and then they give the reason. So that reason should be the basis of your refusal or your acceptance. So as you look forward towards this year's finance bill, then that should be the basis. But what's more important, what was happening at Jivanji was just a precursor. We don't have a finance bill out yet, so they were discussing, they were just venting the ideas. Yeah, they were just hot air. until we have the bill out, then that discussion after the bill, then it has to be very, very clear. Because this time round you fail on that, you go to the High Court, the Constitutional Division, they'll throw it out again. Actually, that is the position. Yeah. You just don't give reasons for your particular decisions, then we're going to face a really difficult time to implement, to have the act, debated and even passed.
Yes. I just add something. Yes. I think the decision to do what they did, I think this idea must have been mooted somewhere, and someone thought this must be a good idea. Yeah. So they were just proceeding. Let's go there. Let's hear them. So people were discussing nothing. We were just on a hear the people tour. Like, let's hear them generally. So really, I won't say they were even consulting people. Yeah. It was just like, let's hear what they have to say. Let them come and tell us what is from their chest, so that there's a feeling like the Treasury and the KRA listens to the people. Yes. But I think a proper effective one would require pointers. This is what we are coming to discuss. Yeah. Get ready, and then tell us your opinion on 1, 2, and 3. But if you just come, even you don't have the document. Yes. As a CS, I think it's going to be very difficult.
Still on you, does the issue around taxes and taxing employment income has generated a lot of debate. I know that the CS Treasury is seen now to be engaging the people. Does it preempt the politics of what has been termed as saving or restoring the dignity of the payslip?
Okay. I think it will go to how will we do it? You know what? These deductions are now statutory. The deductions are now anchored in law. They are not suggestions anymore. And so, will you save? These deductions are ongoing. They are actually operational. So now, if you say you want to preserve the dignity of the payslip, what does that mean? Does it mean a repeal of the laws? Does it mean going back? Because Parliament already passed these laws, like this one for house levy. It is now the Affordable Housing Act is there. So it's not even the president anymore. He's not even the minister anymore. It is now an act of parliament.
Yeah.
So it is being deducted by law. So if a CS comes to you and tells you, now we will preserve the dignity of your payslip, what is he even telling you? Is he saying that this 2.75, this 3% that's going to be deducted on levy, will it be scrapped off? Are we going to repeal the law? If they tell you now, shall we will renegotiate? Are we foreseeing an amendment? But if there's no amendment, there's no repeal. Because these are now things that are statutory. It's the law that says so. Anchored in law. Yeah, it's no longer president to say. Yeah. It's no longer CS to say. It is no longer in our place to say. Unless the parliament says, we think this is too much, we will amend, or we will repeal. I think that's the only approach now, where we sit.
Do you see this graduating from a... I think it's graduating to a political conversation or a fully fledged political showdown?
I think for me, bearing in mind that, you know, the former deputy president made it a campaign tool, I think whatever Treasury was doing was a reactive measure towards the campaign messaging. So looking at it from a legal perspective, there's little you can do because it is law. But from a political perspective, you ought to react to a particular message that is live to them at the moment, and that is what Mbadi was doing. Probably the best will be just you know, lip service to us that probably there will be no further increase in terms of statutory deduction to, you know, to contain the payslip. But the former deputy president message towards a payslip campaign might have been a killer sword because it has thrown the entire, you know, campaign or the thinking around the public financing, around the workers, around you know, how taxes are used towards you know, confusion. So thinking futuristic, I foresee government trying to reduce a number of taxes on the payslip. I foresee that. You foresee that? I foresee a situation whereby they will bring amendments in the House, also next year, as we head towards the election, to be able to reduce a number of those tax deductions, but not by lip service. So they have to come to the floor of the House, bring amendments, and say probably these and these areas might not be working well. Yes. You have seen outcries around the hues around NSSF. You have seen the hues around affordable housing. They might rethink towards the same, but from the perspective of moving various amendments. Yes. And that can be done through even the finance bill. A finance bill can actually repeal, you know, those kind of tax deductions.
Doesn't that make it look like you create a problem and then being seen like you're trying to solve it?
That's actually politics. Politics is about solution of problems that at times are created by the politicians. Yes. So, but going to an election year, 2026, finance bill might have a raft of amendments that will resonate with the local voter for purposes of getting votes. So, you know, some people are getting reductions of about 40%. If you look at the salaries of MPs, salaries of a number of government officials, the reductions are extremely huge. So, to resonate with the voter, then you have to do something that will create a relief. But that relief will offer a political premium for those in government. So we expect that next year, not this year. Yes. This year it might not be the right time, but next year I foresee a situation whereby, you know, there will be some reliefs. Probably, what is the best way? What's the best way in terms of approaching, you know, government policies? Do we do it for elections, or do we introduce policies for posterity? The finance bill has faced, you know, The affordable housing faced a number of challenges, legal challenges, but the government pushed it through. Then correcting it after the cry, and SHA the same. There have been a lot of cry around it.
Yeah.
Then correcting it. So why do you come up with policies? Do you come up with policies for posterity or for politics? Maybe it's for the public.
It's a valid question, Wakili. Yes. Is it for posterity or just politics?
I think the distinction between what things are and what they actually should be.
Yes.
So it should be for posterity. It should outlive us. Ordinarily, a law or a policy, it should be futuristic in approach. You should look at it in terms of generations to come. But unfortunately, we have other policies that are done for the immediate, where now what you want, it happens at every level, from even MCA here, even MP, governor. There are things, and the president now, the things that is done just so that you get a re-election.
Yeah.
Which should not be the case. It should be something that should make sense even for the next holder of office, and should be implemented even without you. I think that is what most developed countries do.
Yes.
Yes, they try to, so that even if the person who occupies office, there will be no major change in how governance is done, because those frameworks were there, they were done for posterity. But in countries where we are sometimes, people make them for immediate gains, so that when you make it now, it will be very active for a year or two. By the time that ends, you're already back in office. But that should not be the case. Yeah, I think we should be done for posterity, that the holder of the office really doesn't matter that much.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, I'm told we are out of time. I will give you each a minute to make your final submissions. Let me start with you.
Yes, I think on the issues that we've discussed, I think most of this can also be solved by the regime coming up with, currently it has what we call a trust deficit. Yes, there's a problem with the trust.
Yeah.
So that even if it's a good thing, someone feels there's something wrong in it. Let's look at it further. But if there's a trust in the regime that there is, people tend to be more amiable. People want to accept and go on.
Yeah.
But because we are facing a trust deficit, I think the government should work more on its trust with the people. Because if that is failing, people tend to interrogate. The first reaction is to object if there's a trust deficit. And so there's nothing that's going to move. So if they work on their trust, I think we have a better chance of moving on as a country and achieving our development goals.
Okay. Yeah. Dunstan.
One is public participation is key for any government. And the implementation of the 2010 Constitution, the Article 10, Article 118, should be our pillar. So anytime you see that you're not doing right under Article 10 and Article 118 of the Constitution, then we ought to pinch ourselves, because all our legal challenges in terms of the policy framework, in terms of the legislative frameworks, is because we don't adhere to, we honor our laws in breach most on Article 10 and Article 118. Lastly, being that we are in a commit of nations, we are also facing a number of challenges within the region, most of the DRC crisis. I'll probably ask fellow Kenyans and the people from the region that probably it's time that we pray for DRC, we pray for Eastern Congo, as they try to also have amicable solution to their regional issues. And it should be a lesson to Kenya and the rest of the region that peace is very important.
All right.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, your time is very much appreciated. That is Riziki Dunstan, who is a lawyer, governance expert, and the National Vice Chair, National Reconstruction Alliance Party, and Ken Odhiambo, who is an advocate of the High Court, joining us here on Good Morning Kenya for People and Politics. This is where we end this segment. Don't go too far. Up next is Rashid Mwamkondo with Zinga, na topic ama mada yao ni bungeni mwaka huu. So thank you for tuning in. My name is Mike. May we keep it KBC Channel 1. Good morning.
Kutafuta moyo mwingine kwa sababu moyo wako tayari ushakufa. Yani unapaswa kutekeleza ibada ambazo zitaweza kuuhuisha moyo wako.
Anakaa lisali moja tu, yeye wacheka tu, subhanallah. Mtume anasema usifanye vile, hakika mtu kithirisha kucheka inauua moyo wa mwanadamu.
Swala zote na salamu zimfikie Hashimu.
Client still hopes to have a young director, so I strongly recommended you to our boss.
Is this your home? You don't know where to put anything. You can't find this or that. Am I your maid?
Jin Bing. Oh, she shot so many ads. Wow. Won many awards.
You just told me this morning and I forgot?
I strongly recommended you to my boss. Now she wants to meet you, but it's only available this afternoon.
How can this be called hasty? It shows your company is efficient. We can only hope to meet more clients like you.
Popote ulipo, ni furaha iliyoje tunapokutana kwenye kipindi Zinga kikishirikiana na GMK, ikiwa ni siku ya 35 ya mwaka wa 2025. Mtazamaji, nikiwa na wingi wa matumaini kwamba uboheri wa siha sawia nasi hapa ndani ya studio. Bila kupoteza nukta, sekunde wala dakika, karibu sana kwenye gumzo lililopevuka na wageni waliopevuka mada zilizopevuka. Mpenzi mtazamaji, kumbuka bunge la Kenya linatarajiwa kurejelea vikao vyake tarehe 11 mwezi Februari mwaka wa 2025. Hii ni baada ya mapumziko ya muda mrefu kufuatia mwezi Disemba mwaka jana. Hii leo mtazamaji, tunataka kuangazia kile kitakachojiri wakati bunge litakaporejelea vikao vyake rasmi kuanzia juma lijalo. Kuna masuala ya kisiasa, kuna masuala ya kimaendeleo, na vile vile kuna masuala ya kuteuliwa kwa kamati ya makamishna wa tume huru ya uchaguzi na mipaka IEBC, pamoja na shutuma nyingi tu sana za utekaji nyara nchini. Je, bunge mtazamaji linatarajiwa kushughulikia vipi masuala haya? Kutusaidia kuchambua haya mpenzi mtazamaji, siko peke yangu. Studioni niko naye Mheshimiwa Steve Mogaka, mbunge wa Mugirango Magharibi. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa Steve Mogaka.
Nashukuru.
Kwa salama kabisa.
Happy New Year, niko salama.
Happy New Year
kwa mwaliko.
Bila shaka. Mtazamaji, huyu mbunge sikujua kama ni mchezaji mpira. Sasa leo acha nikwambie, miongoni mwa wachezaji wazuri sana wa mpira wa timu ya bunge ni Mheshimiwa Steve Mogaka. Tulikuwa naye kule Mombasa na timu ya bunge la Kenya ilikuwa imejaa Shabana. Maana alikuwa kwa yeye, alikuwa Barongo, alikuwa Kibagendi. Na nani tena huyo mheshimiwa, yule goalkeeper wenu yule?
Engoko alikuwa Kisairo Clyde.
Bila shaka. Kwa hiyo hawa bunge usione hivi tu wanapiga mpira.
Mbona wasa Uzair? Zair jana.
Adani. Bila shaka. Na vile pia tuko naye ndani ya studio hapa mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa, ndugu Mesha Kodede. Karibu sana.
Mpira ni bunge sijaingia, pengine nitaingia bunge lingine lijalo.
Amen. Na msikilizaji, katika muda usio mrefu vile pia nitamualika hapa Mheshimiwa Nabii. Amefika ndani ya studio, mbunge wa Lugari, miongoni mwa wabunge wa magharibi mwa Kenya, ambaye anatokota si mchezo. Lakini mtazamaji, nikisema anatokota sisemi kwamba labda ni malenge yametiwa ndani ya sufuria. Mtazamaji, sijui mwelekezi wangu, niko tayari nimkaribishe mgeni wangu watatu ndani ya studio. Naam, bila shaka, karibu sana Mheshimiwa Nabii Nabwera ndani ya studio zetu. Uko salama?
Niko salama. Nimefurahi kurudi. Unajua mimi Mogaka nilifanya kazi hapa. Nilikuwa mfanyakazi hapa. Nilikuwa nasimamia uajiri.
Unapotea sana mheshimiwa, unakuja alafu unaepa. Dora Manya aliniambia nikuulize mbona unapotea sana. Unakuja unatuonyesha utamu alafu unakona. Nini mbaya bwana mheshimiwa?
Ushuru.
asante sana hata hivyo kwa kujiunga nasi. Labda nikianza nayo Mheshimiwa Steve Mogaka, juma lijalo bunge linatarajiwa kufunguliwa. Je, Wakenya watarajie nini? Kwa sababu mna majukumu mengi sana, mtutungie sheria, mtuwakilishe na kuhakikisha kwamba mnaishikilia serikali pale ambapo inakwenda kombo.
Nashukuru. Tumepumzika ya kutosha. Hata kama hii likizo iko ya kupumzika, ilikuwa likizo ya kazi. Bunge litakapofunguliwa litakuwa bunge tofauti. Bunge la broad-based government. Na we expect bunge pia liwe na mjadala ulio broad-based. Ile kusimamiwa mbeleni kwa mlengo wa chama, usiseme hili, usiseme lile, ile usipige kura hivi, usipige kura vile. Natarajia sasa wabunge watachangamka na kila mtu atatoa maoni yake na atawakilisha constituency yake na ata-engage ile miswada ambayo inakuja kulingana na taaluma yake, kulingana na understanding yake, na nafikiria tutaona bunge yenye contribution ya kipekee katika hii term ambao tunarudi.
Na asante sana kwa utangulizi huo Mujarab. Mheshimiwa Mogaka, nirudi kwako Bwana Odede. Kuna swala ambalo lilijitokeza mwaka jana kwamba Wakenya walihisi kwamba bunge kidogo liliwafeli kiasi cha kwamba mpaka wakalivamia lile bunge, ambapo tuliona waheshimiwa walitoroka na ile tunnel ya chini. Sijui mwaka huu tutarajia nini?
Asante sana ndugu yangu. Kulingana na mtazamo wa mwananchi wa kawaida pale nje, najua kwamba Wakenya hawajapoteza matumaini kabisa. Ila ni kwamba walipoteza kidogo, wakaonyesha kwamba walikuwa na ghadhabu. But kwa sasa Wakenya wanaona kwamba wabunge watasikiliza yale ambao wanasema mwaka huu. Na niliona dalili kidogo siku ya jana, nikiona Mheshimiwa Mbadi ambaye ni waziri anasimamia fedha akiwa pale bunge la mwananchi akijaribu kuongea na wananchi, asikize kwamba wananchi wana mtazamo gani kwa mwaka huu watakapoingia bunge na kuleta bajeti nyingine mpya ya 2025-2026. Hiyo inaonyesha kwamba Mbadi alikuwa katika bunge muda ule, unakumbuka? So najua bado anafikiria kama mbunge na pia ana check on the other side. So tunaangazia kwamba wabunge wataingia pale na watachukua mawaidha ya wananchi mwaka huu, ndio tusione ghadhabu aina ile tuliona mwaka ule. Wakati ule waliposema hatutaki, ile kitu ilileta shida ni kwamba wakati walisema hatutaki finance bill hii, wabunge wengi kutoka upande wa Kenya Kwanza hawakusikia hiyo. Walisikia vingine, wakasema tuna amend. Wakati walisema don't amend, iondoe yote, waliendelea na kuamend na kupitisha. Wakati huu tunajaribu kuambia wabunge wetu kwamba hatujapoteza matumaini kabisa, lakini tutakapo agree kwamba kipengele hii ondoa, msiende kuamend, kwa sababu hiyo ndio inaleta shida sana. Wakati mwingine wananchi wanasema hii haiwezekani, katika zile kamati wanachukua mawaidha, lakini unakuta kwamba wakienda pale wana amend kivyao. Sasa wakati huu turudi tu kama Wakenya, ghadhabu isiwe, ikisemekana hii kipengele toa yote, toa yote, usiamend. Lakini ile tumekubaliana kwamba hii amend, endelea kuamend.
Bila shaka mtazamaji, ni mambo na kuondoa na kuamend ndio yanazidi kuchakatua mchakato mzima wa gumzo lilopevuka hapa ndani ya studio. Labda tu kama ndo kwa sasa msikilizaji unafungua redio yako, hii ni KBC Radio Taifa, sauti ya Mkenya, na studioni niko naye mbunge wa Lugari Mheshimiwa Nabii Nabwera, vile vile pia niko naye Mheshimiwa Steve Mogaka, mbunge wa Mogirango Magharibi, na vile vile pia mchezaji wa timu ya Bunge FC, na niko naye mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa Bwana Meshak Odede. Na hivi punde tu tumejiunga naye Mheshimiwa Nabii. Mheshimiwa Nabii, nikirudi kwako, Wamezungumzia swala la kuwapatia nafasi wananchi watoe hisia zao. Jana tuliona mfano mzuri, waziri wa fedha Mheshimiwa John Mbadi alikuwa hapa Jivanjii Garden kuzungumza na bunge la mwananchi. Na miongoni mwa mambo ambayo yalifanyika mwaka jana, vijana wa Gen Z mwezi Juni waliweza kuvamia majengo ya bunge kwa kile walichokilalamikia kwamba ni mswada wa kifedha. Labda pengine mwaka huu mnapotarajia kufungua bunge wiki ijayo, Mheshimiwa Nabii, tutarajie mtawashirikisha vipi wananchi?
Nafikiria kwamba kwa kila mbunge wa Kenya, nikiwemo mimi, akiwemo ndugu yangu Mwakaka na wengine wote, tumeshika mtazamo mpya. Ni kwamba baada ya yale yote yaliyofanyika mwaka jana, kila mtu amekuwa na muda wa kujifikiria. Kila mtu amekuwa na nafasi ya kukaa na watu wake, wa karibu na wa mbali. Kila mtu amekuwa na nafasi ya kuzungumza na wakilishi watu wake wa ile eneo anayowakilisha bunge. Na kwa kweli kuna mabadiliko mengi sana. Juma lijalo tunapofungua bunge, kuna mambo mengi katika muhula huu ambayo yanakuja. Kwanza tutakuwa na bajeti ambayo tunaita bajeti fafanusi, supplementary budget, ambayo tutakuwa nayo kuelekea mwisho wa mwezi huu. Itakuwa inarekebisha bajeti ambayo tuliweka, tukiwa na mtazamo sasa mpya wa fedha ambazo tunatarajia kupata kama ushuru. Pia katika muhula huu tutakuwa na bajeti ya 2025-2026 ambayo inakuja. Sisi tunataka tumechukua maoni kutoka kwa kila mmoja wenu, kila shirika, kufikia tarehe 30 mwezi wa 4, na hiyo imesomwa kwenye bunge kabla ya kukamilisha mwezi wa 6 mwaka huu. Lakini la muhimu ni hili ambalo ndugu yangu Mwakaka amelitanguliza, kuwa katika mfumo wa siasa, unajua yote yanayotendeka kwenye bunge ni siasa tu. Katika mfumo wenye siasa, wenye serikali pana, imetupatia mambo mawili muhimu. Ya kwanza ni kwamba mirengo ya chama, makali ya mirengo ya chama yatakuwa chini. Makali ya mirengo ya chama yakiwa chini, inamaanisha kwamba kila mbunge itatakiwa atumie 1, ujuzi wake; 2, maarifa; 3, ambayo ni muhimu, maoni ya watu anayowakilisha bungeni; na 4, utaalamu. Pili, inamaanisha kuwa tukiwa katika ile bunge, ni matarajio yetu kama wabunge, kila mmoja wetu atapewa nafasi ya kutokeleza maoni yake pasipo vishawishi ambavyo ni vya chama au mirengo ya chama. Umuhimu wa hiyo ni kwamba kabla ya hii serikali pana, kulikuwa na mirengo mikali sana, hata ya kwamba mimi na ndugu Mwakaka ambao tulitoka katika walio wachache, hata uwe na maoni mazuri namna gani, yalikuwa yanatupiliwa mbali tu. Inalazimishwa tuende na ile maoni duni yaliyokuwa yanatoka katika mrengo wa serikali. Na ni ukweli kwamba hata hiyo finance bill iliyoleta shida 2024, sisi tulikuwa tumeona na tukasema hapana, turekebishe hapa, turekebishe pale. Jambo la muhimu kwa mwananchi wa Kenya ni kwamba hii nchi ni yetu sisi wote. Jinsi tunavyoiendesha, tuiendeshe tukijua kwamba tunaweka msingi wa vizazi vya vijavyo ambavyo pengine kuwa na nafasi ya kuviona. Lakini yale tunayafanya yatakuwa na umuhimu mkubwa kwa maisha ya baadaye.
Shikilia hapo mheshimiwa, umekuja na nukta nzuri sana. Na kabla kurudi kwake mheshimiwa Nabii na Bwera, nirudi kwako mheshimiwa Steve Mogaka. Amezungumzia masuala muhimu sana hapa katika jinsi tunavyotarajia bunge lifanye, na ameweza kuzungumzia bunge lililopita viongozi walikuwa na semi pinzani, lakini ilikuwa kuna mwelekeo fulani. Sasa hali ya kisiasa imebadilika vipi tangu kikao kilichopita? Kwa sababu mheshimiwa Nabii ameweza kuzungumza kuna baadhi ya wabunge wa upinzani ambao wanaunga mkono serikali, lakini kuna wale ambao pia bado wamesalia upinzani, wanasema tutabakia pale pale. Hali inatarajiwa kuwa vipi mheshimiwa Steve Mogaka?
Hali itakuwa tulivu. Vile ndugu yangu mkubwa amesema, na yale makali ya mrengo wa chama, msimamo wa chama, ndiyo yaliyokuwa yakileta madhara katika debates za bunge. Na mara nyingi wabunge walisahau ama tulisahau kuwa watajiri wetu waliotuajiri ni constituency yetu na sio chama chetu. Na wakati kuna utata, conflict between msimamo wa tunaowawakilisha na chama tulio nayo kule bunge, kama wakili mimi nasema maoni ya wale waliniajiri must prevail and will always prevail. Na ndio sababu tunasema ile high intolerance ilikuweko. Unapata tuna pinga kwa sababu walio wachache kazi yao ni kupinga. Hata kama mswada ni mzuri ni kupinga. Hata kama mswada ni mzuri ni kupiga no. Hayo makali na grandstanding, hiyo ndio naona itatulia, na ndio sasa utaenda kuona ubora wa bunge, utaona uchuzi wa bunge, utaona uzungumzaji wa wabunge, na utaona tetezi kule bunge zenye ziko informed na research na sio msimamo wa chama. Unasema ukienda huko unaambiwa hebu ni msimamo wa chama, na conscience yako haiko huko, basi hata una haja ya kucontribute kule bunge, kwa sababu ukicontribute utatoa maoni yako, na maoni yako yatakuwa against maoni ya chama. Na mimi nataka kuuliza vinara wa chama, wawache wabunge wawe wabunge, wawache bunge iwe bunge. Tuchape debate kule ya kimataifa, ndio watu waweze kuelewa. Hata kama tukipitisha mswada, wa Kenya watakuwa wameona mchango wa wabunge wao, mchango ambao utaelekeza mahali tunaelekea. Na ndio sababu hiyo miswada ya finance bill haikuwa nzuri, kwa sababu wabunge hawakuruhusiwa kuchangia, kwa sababu ilikuwa ni hivi, put the question. Sasa ni hivi, put the question. Ni kupiga tu kura. Kama kungelikuwa na nafasi ya kutosha ya kuanika wasiwasi ya wabunge na wale wanaowakilisha, tuanike, tuchanue kila mstari ya mswada, utapata kuwa Wakenya pia wanatembea na sisi.
Bila shaka.
Ninaomba this time round tupate hiyo nafasi, na runinga ya KBC tafadhali mulika bunge, mtaona mchango ambao utachangamsha wananchi.
Okay, mheshimiwa ameinua kidole hapa mheshimiwa Nabii. Nataka uzuie tu hapo kidogo, ama maoni yako nitakupatia nafasi, lakini acha nimpatie nafasi naye bwana Odede kidogo. Mtazamaji, kidogo alikuwa nimuulize mheshimiwa Nabii na Bwera, kati yake na Mary Daraja nani mkubwa, lakini jibu lishatoka pale, kwa sababu mheshimiwa Steve Mogaka amemuita Nabii kaka mkubwa. Kwa hiyo nishapata jibu. Namba na Alex, umesikia maoni ya waheshimiwa wakisema kwamba ni kama kulikuwa na mwingilio wa utendakazi wao katika bunge ambao kikao kinachokuja hawastahiki kuwa hivyo. Sijui unasemaje kuhusiana?
Najua kama mwananchi wa kawaida kwamba wakati ule hakukuwa na na debate ambayo inafika conclusion. Na vile Mheshimiwa Mogaka amesema, mara nyingi tuna watch bunge kupitia runinga ya KBC. Unaona kwamba kuna nafasi bunge fulani amepewa na ameleta point kali sana ambayo inafaa kuangaliliwa kwa undani. Lakini speaker kule anasema the question, alafu sasa wanatumia ile namba. Na ningependa kusema kwamba kama mwananchi wa kawaida, ninapoangalia bunge yetu la kitaifa, naona kwamba speaker pia alichangia sana kwa bunge kutofanya kazi yake ya oversight kwa executive, kwa sababu speaker amekuwa kama appendage, kama branch ya executive, kwamba unawaona kila wakati wanatembea hapa na pale, alafu mara nyingi unakuta wanasema kwamba tumesha agree kama Kenya Kwanza, hii ndio msimamo. Alafu sasa wabunge wanakuwa whipped kulingana na mirengo. Inamaanisha ubongo zao hazitakikani. Mtu hataki watumie ubongo zao, mtu hataki watumie maoni wamepata kwa eneo la bunge ambao wanawakilisha. Na tunatarajia kwamba with broad-based tunaenda kuona broad-based parliament ambayo inafanya oversight kwa executive. Tutoe maoni ama mafikira kwamba tuko katika wakati wa zamani ambaye tulikuwa tunaendelea na bunge la opposition versus government. Kwa sasa bunge ni bunge la kitaifa. Wabunge wote whether walichaguliwa kwa chama cha rais ambaye anafanya kazi ama alichaguliwa kwa vile vyama vingine, wote wanafaa ku-oversight executive. Na hiyo ndio tunataka kuona tukiendelea mbele. Mambo ya put the question, iwe question kama ni mambo imejadiliwa kabisa na hawajafikia. Kwa sababu hawa wabunge wana akili timamu. Wakijadiliana vizuri bila mtu yeyote kuingilia kutoka executive ama wakuu wa vyama, watafikiana bila hata kuweka hiyo question. Before the question watakuwa wamefikiana kwa yale mambo ambayo yanasumbua wananchi.
Bila shaka. Wacha turudi kwake kaka mkubwa Mheshimiwa Nabii na Bwera. Naona uko umenusha kidole.
Yes, kuna jambo muhimu ambalo ndugu yangu yalitokeza. Kwamba kuna wakati kulikuwa na tetezi kwenye bunge ambazo zilishikilia sana mirengo ya chama. Na ndugu Dede amesema kwamba yeye anaona kwamba speaker alichangia hiyo. Nitakueleza mambo mawili muhimu. Sheria ya Kenya inasema kuna sehemu tatu ya serikali. Bunge, legislature, executive ambaye ni serikali kuu, na judiciary. Kwa hivyo mbunge uwe wa walio wachache ama wengi, wewe ni sehemu ya serikali. Hilo ndilo watu huwa wajui. Kwamba wale walio wengi sasa wanafikiri wao ni serikali zaidi kuliko wachache. Sasa wachache hata muhitaji kusema lolote kwa sababu hamuko kwa serikali. That's not true. Hiyo si sheria ya Kenya. Na sheria ya Kenya haina mpinzani. Ina wale walio wachache. Katika mazungumzo ya bunge, kukiwa na mswada, kunakuwa na sehemu ya walio wachache wasikizwe. Hivyo ndio sheria inataka, wasikizwe. Na katika ile hali ya uamuzi, walio wengi watapewa, na walio wachache maoni yao yatakuwa yamechukuliwa. Kuna mswada ulikuwa katika hiyo bunge na mpaka sasa hivi yanasumbua, na ndugu atakumbuka High Education Funding Model. Tulikuwa na mazungumzo kama kamati ya elimu, tukakuja na mazungumzo kwa bunge. Na kulikuwa watu walikuwa na maoni, watu walikuwa na maoni mazuri, si ya kupinga, ilikuwa ya kutengeneza hiyo model iwe safi. Hatungekuwa tuko kwa hii shida tuko nayo kotini. Kulikuwa na maoni mazuri, kwamba tuangalie hii si nzuri. Mbona ile msichana yule ambaye mama yake anafanya kazi Karen anaonekana ni kama tajiri. Hawajui kwamba mama anafanya tu kazi, anaishi kwa servant quarter. Anachukuliwa kama tajiri. Kulikuwa na maoni mazuri, tufanye vipi ili hii model iwe nzuri. Lakini kwa sababu maoni hayo mengi yalitoka kwa walio wachache, wajamaa walikuwa wanaamka wanafanya namna yani pinga. Wanafanya tu hivi. Na huyu ndugu anakumbuka wanafanya hivi. Sasa hiyo kuna whip anaitwa Zoro, anaamka anafanya hivi. Ndio tunasema licha ya kwamba mimi nimetoka kwa walio wachache ndio na makali yangu, one thing nakubaliana nayo ni kwamba huu mfumo ambao tumepata utatupatia nafasi ya kuzungumza kama Wakenya na upendo. Itatupatia nafasi ya kuwakilisha eneo zetu bunge. Na hiyo itachangia pakubwa tuwe na sheria ambazo zitapeleka Kenya mbele. Tuwe na uamuzi wa jinsi ya kutumia pesa ambayo itasaidia Kenya. Kwa sababu ya hiyo maneno ambayo tumesema, kuna jambo ambalo Wakenya hawajui. Na mimi nitachukua nafasi hii kulisema leo.
Liseme, likutoke.
Ndugu Mogaka atakubaliana na sisi hapa kwamba kwa sababu ya hiyo maneno, bajeti ya Kenya ya barabara ilienda kwa kaunti 4 peke yake. Hii pesa mnasikia 220 billion pending bill. 92.6% inaenda kulipa barabara za kaunti 4. Na wengine?
Na tuna kaunti ya 47.
Na wengine? Ndiposa wengine wetu tunasema on this one Mungu alionekania William. Mungu alimuonekania akaona hii mrengo nimechukua ya Kenya kwanza na basa other Kenyans itaumiza nchi.
Lakini sasa nilikwambia wakati wa Kenya walienda uchaguzi, kwa maoni yao na wisdom yao, walichagua wabunge wengi kutoka mrengo wa Azimio. Kulingana na Registrar of Political Parties, zile parties zilikuwa under Azimio. But sasa bwana Wetangula speaker akaenda pale akaambia Wakenya upande huu ndio wengi. Lakini kwa records mpaka leo
ndio
waheshimiwa hapa watakubaliana na mimi, Azimio walipata majority.
Lakini walinunuliwa.
Ningelipenda mwanasheria kabla mimi niseme, ningelipenda Mogaka aseme kufuatana na sheria, nami nitasema kisiasa nini ilifanyika.
Sawa. Na mimi nimesema kimwananchi. Kama mpiga kura.
Na mheshimiwa Mogaka
ya muhimu, sitaki kwenda juu ya maneno ya speaker kwa sababu speaker akishatoa uamuzi ndio wa mwisho. Na anayekerwa na huo uamuzi anaenda mahakamani. Lakini ukweli usemwe, wanaoitwa wachache kule bunge ndio wanabeba maoni ya walio wengi nchini. Na ndio sababu nataka kukubaliana na mheshimiwa Nabii kuwa ni jambo la muhimu wale wanaoitwa wachache wapewe nafasi nzuri zaidi kuchangia upinzani wao na tetezi zao kwa sheria yoyote ile inayoletwa na serikali, kwa sababu hiyo contribution itaweza kuimarisha hiyo sheria, itaweza kupunguza ile tension, kwa sababu wanawakilisha wengi, na wasipo toa sauti ya wengi kule bunge, hata kama wanaitwa wachache, itakuwa tumekosea nchi, na kila wakati tutakuwa tunapata sheria ambayo iko na dosari. Na ndio sababu mimi natumaini kuwa serikali ya upana itaonyesha sura ya upana kule bungeni, maoni ya upana, na temperatures zetu ziende chini, tusikizane. Kila mtu achangie, kila mtu awakilishe, kila mtu improve ile miswada inaletwa, na utakuja kushangaa vile Kenya iko nchi bora, vile demokrasia ya Kenya itakuwa imeimarika, na hiyo ndio kila Mkenya anaomba.
Tukisalia hapo kabla nirudi kwa mheshimiwa Nabii na vile vile ndugu yangu Odede, tumekuwa na visa vya utekaji nyara nchini na kwa kweli si visa vizuri, na mpaka sasa idara ya polisi imekana kuhusika katika masuala haya. Mkuu wa polisi na mkuu wa kitengo cha DCI juzi walikuwa mahakamani na wakapinga kuhusika kwao, lakini bado Wakenya wanapotea, Mheshimiwa Mugaka, wanauawa, na sijui kama bunge mtafanya nini kuhusiana na swala hili. Na nikiongezea tu hapo, kuna waziri mmoja ndani ya serikali ambaye amejitokeza akikemea mambo haya na akionyesha kidole haswa kwa rais. Sijui wengi wanasema kwamba anafaa kujiuzulu. Kama bunge mtachukua hatua gani? Nikianza na wewe nije kwa Odede alafu tumalizie na Mheshimiwa Nabii na Bwera kabla kusonga mbele.
Nashukuru sana. Nataka kukemea utekaji nyara kama mwanasheria. Hiyo ni ukiukaji wa haki ya kibinadamu. Na nikishasema hivyo, naomba vitengo vya serikali vinaohusika na kuinvestigate na nini naendelea waamke na watekeleze wajibu wao. Na nikiwa hapo tukirudi bunge, mimi najua tutafanya motion of adjournment kuzungumzia hii maneno ya abduction, kwa sababu hiki ni kitendo ambacho akiwezi kukubaliwa kuendelea katika nchi ya Kenya. Lakini nikisema hivyo, na mimi ni mwanasheria pia, wanaotekwa nyara hawatekwi nyara kutoka mbinguni, wanatekwa nyara kutoka jamii. Sasa sisi wa Kenya tunasema nini kama sisi ni wa kweli? Inawezekanaje kila mtu atekwa nyara na hakuna mtu mshahidi ameona ni nini imetokea? Sisi wa Kenya tumejiangusha wenyewe, kwa sababu haiwezi kuwa ni ukweli kuwa watu wanatekwa nyara na hakuna mtu anajua ni nani anatenda na ni wapi wanapelekwa. Sisi wa Kenya tunajiangusha, na ndio sababu nataka kusii wa Kenya wenzetu, wacha tuchukue security ya kila mtu kama security yetu yako binafsi. Na ukiona watu unaowashuku, watu ambao wanaangalia wanaonekana vibaya, naomba tusaidie serikali na vitengo vya kutekeleza sheria kutusaidia kupunguza hivi. Na pia nikiwa hapo na changio langu la mwisho, vijana wetu, mimi nataka kuwasihi kidogo wawe wapole na wasitembee peke yao, aswa wale wanachangia mjadala na maoni yao kupitia mitandao. Wacha kutembea peke yako, kwa sababu unapatikana wapi unakidnapiwa ukiwa peke yako. It is important sasa hata sisi vijana wetu waanze kutembea kama polisi yatembei peke yake, wanatembea wawili. Kwa kwetu tunasema njia ya wawili ni nzuri sana kuliko njia ya mtu mmoja. There must be somebody to come and account for you, ama kuraise signal ama kuraise alarm, kusema mwenzangu tulikuwa tunatembea naye, mwenzangu tulikuwa tunalala naye, mwenzangu tulikuwa tunaishi naye, ni kama amechukuliwa na watu ambao hawaonekani ni vizuri. Namaliza na kukemea tena vitendo vya utekanyara na kuuliza wanaohusika, tafadhalini wachana nayo. Wachana nayo.
Asante. Kauli yako Bwana Odede.
Kwangu ni mambo mawili.
Naam, sio matatu.
Mawili tu ndugu yangu. Number one, whether kuna politics ndani ya utekaji ama ni serikali. Serikali ndio wanajibu swali, kwa sababu wao ndio walichukua. Serikali ya Kenya kwanza ongozwa na rais wetu William Ruto, ndio walichukua oath, wakasema watalinda maisha na mali ya Wakenya. Wakenya wote, whether unakubaliana na serikali kwa mambo ambayo wanafanya ama haukubaliani nayo, oath ilichukuliwa na Mheshimiwa Rais, na wale wote wanafanya chini yake kulinda maisha yetu kama Wakenya na mali yetu. So kama kuna mtu amejiabduct, ni serikali wanafaa kutafuta huyo mtu, walete, wapeleke kotini, waseme kwa sababu sasa hivi nikitaka kujiua maisha yangu si yangu. Serikali watanipeleka jela na wanishtaki na kosa, na waseme kwa nini unachukua hii maisha na nilichukua oath kwamba nitalinda hii maisha. So serikali watuambie hawa watu wako wapi na ni kina nani wamewachukua. Hiyo ndio jambo la mwisho. Hatufai kuwa katika ile debate ya wanakuwa abducted na wanasiasa ama serikali ndio wanawa abduct. Whichever way, hata kama ni wao wanajiabduct wenyewe, serikali are supposed to give the answers, kwa sababu hii ni tamu yao. Jambo la pili ni kwamba polisi wamechangia sana mambo hii. Ni kwa sababu gani nitasema polisi wamechangia? Kwa sababu wakati walianza kushika watu wakiwa wamejifunika vichwa na uso, na wakapeana nafasi. Sasa kama Meshak alikuwa na issue na mwenzake, mimi pia najifunika, nachukua huyo, nafanya nayo kile kitu ninataka, alafu lawama itaenda kwa polisi, kwa sababu wa Kenya washaona polisi ndio wanakujanga hivyo. Kama polisi wangekuwa wanakuja civilized, wanakuambia mimi ni askari fulani fulani, ID ndio hii, tumekuja kukushika kwa sababu ya mambo fulani, tuende, watu wako wanajua huyu amechukuliwa, amepelekwa police station fulani, lawyer wako anakuja, hakuna mwingine anaweza kuja na hudi, kwa sababu Wakenya watasema wewe si polisi, polisi wetu hawashiki watu hivi. Lakini sasa hivi nikiwa na shida, hata kama tunangangania shamba, tunangangania mwanamke, tunangangania anything, nitakuja tu nikuchukue na watu wangu tukiwa hooded, alafu lawama itakuwa kwa polisi, kwa sababu wao ndio wametuletea hiyo style mpya ya kushika watu. So mimi nasema polisi wamechangia hii mambo sana. Na lazima wakuje watafute hawa watu, walete, kama wanataka kutuambia hawajui wako wapi, ni wao wanafaa kuwa kipaumbele wakitafuta hawa watu na wanawaleta wakiwa wapi.
Bila shaka nimependa pale aliposema tunganganie wanawake. Nirudi kwako Mheshimiwa Nabii.
Asante. Kwa Mkenya yoyote anayependa amani, kwa Mkenya yoyote anaishi nchi hii, lazima toka kwa mwananchi wa kawaida, kwa waziri, kwa mbunge, kwa rais, lazima tulaani kitendo cha utekaji nyara. Wapendwa, nchi kutokuwa na amani kama vile Zaire iko, Kongo sasa iko, ni rahisi sana. Ni rahisi sana. Kupoteza mwelekeo wa nchi ni rahisi sana. Mambo kama haya. Kwa hivyo lazima kila mmoja wetu alaani hiki kitendo. Jambo langu la pili ni kwamba si haki. Hiyo mimi napinga. Si haki kwamba waziri Justin Muturi ambaye mtoto yake pia alitekwa nyara. Sisi tulio nje tumuulize kwamba ajiuzulu, kwa sababu yale anayesema ni mazungumzo yake na rais. None of us has capacity. Ina bwere na bi, sina capacity ya kujua kweli yeye na rais walizungumza ama hawakuzungumza. Is his word against the president's word? So hiyo ni mambo wamalize huko jikoni, yeye na rais vile walizungumza. Si jambo ambalo linahitaji tushike hamaki. Ndugu yangu, acha nikwambie, hata huyu Mogaka ama huyo Oded ama wewe, mtu akiguza mtoto yako, baba, that's where the rubber meets the road. Ungwana unatupa nje, unasema hata kama mimi sina nguvu, wacha nimalizie tu hapo. Lakini mtoto wangu ni yoko. Kwa hivyo it's a very delicate issue ambayo rais na waziri wake inatakiwa waketi chini walizuluhisha. Jambo langu la tatu, nakubaliana na Odede na nakubaliana na Mogaka. Kuna vitengo vya sheria, kuna vitengo hapa nchini vya kuhakikisha kwamba kila mmoja wetu anaishi kwa sheria, anatekeleza sheria. Na hili jambo, unajua sisi hapa Kenya tunapenda sana kwenda round. Hii ni kesi ambayo polisi wameshindwa kuwajibika, and we must tell them. Kazi kubwa ya polisi ni kulinda mimi na mali yangu. Wanalipwa mshahara kwa kulinda mimi na mali yangu, kuhakikisha kwamba mimi na wewe tunaishi kwa amani, kuhakikisha kwamba hakuna lolote baya litatendeka. You know, ni aibu. It is shameful. Ni aibu kubwa. Inspector wa polisi anajika Biblia kwa kotini na kusema mimi sijui. Sasa nani ajue? Nani ajue? Yeye ako na DCI, ako na hiyo vitengo ingine, iko hata AP, iko kila mahali. Na hii kama hii Nairobi, ile kitu imeniudhi ni kwamba hii Nairobi tuliweka hata cameras kwa street. How are we able to identify wale watoto waliruka kwa bunge na tumeshinda kwa identify watu wana abduct watu?
Swala nyeti hilo.
How are we able? Mimi ninasema hivi, polisi wanapea rais jina mbaya, polisi Inspector General of Police anapea serikali jina mbaya, anapea hata sisi wabunge awajibike. Na kama imemshinda, ndugu yangu, unajua saa nyingine katika mila yangu tunasema maji imezidi unga. Okay? Sasa maji ikizidi unga, kama hii kazi imemzidi, it's also human. Unasema naona hii vile inaenda nimepungukiwa. Because who should answer the question of security for Kenyans if not police?
Swali moja tu kwa wabunge hawa wawili. Wakati mnafanya vetting ya watu kama Inspector General, ni kina nini mnaangalia sana? Kwa sababu juzi ama wiki zijazo hapo nyuma nimesikia Mheshimiwa Rigathi aliyekuwa naibu wa rais akisema kwamba Bwana Kanja ametoa security yake na yeye ndiye alimpa kazi. Hapa sasa tunachanganyika kama wananchi. Ni yeye alipeana kazi ama ni nyinyi mlifanya vetting? Na mkifanya vetting, huyu jamaa aliwaambia nini? Mkakubaliana mkasema huyu ndiye anaweza kazi.
In fact,
waje nikujibu. Yes. Angalia Kanja, whether Rigathi alimpa kazi au hakumpa kazi is neither here nor there. He may have recommended him to somebody, I don't know. Yes. Lakini Kanja kama polisi, he grew up the ranks. Huo ni ukweli. Hata akawa one of the most effective commandant wa GSU. GSU is the most rated police unit in this country. Elite, naitwa elite police unit. Sasa kwa kuwa alikuwa na hiyo uwezo, lakini tukubali kwamba ukiwa pale juu kazi inabadilika kidogo. Lazima uelewe siasa inji. Pengine hiyo imemshinda kuelewa. Lazima pia ukuwe na marafiki na hao polisi wa chini. Pengine amepanda hapo juu akasawa alianzia hapa chini. Sasa wanamwangusha tu kama lonely huko. Hako lonely peke yake. So those are the issues, you know. Lazima upate polisi Inspector General ambaye ataunganisha kwanza NPS na APS. Number 1. Na DCI. Number 2. Na awe na uwezo. That is where I'm seeing the disconnect. How does NIS connect with police? At what point do they have a forum where they discuss? Hivyo tu.
Labda nirudi kwako Mheshimiwa Steve Mogaka, na arifiwa kwamba dakika zetu tuko na dakika 11 tu kuweza kutamatisha kipindi hiki. Rais Daktari William Ruto hivi juzi alimaliza ziara ya siku 6 kule kwa kina Mheshimiwa Nabii na Bwera. Atatuambia walipotoa bonus ya sukari, ile bonus ilikuwa yatoka ni ya mume ama ni ya serikali. Na hii leo rais anaanza ziara anatarajiwa kuanza ziara siku 3 eneo la Nyanza. Hii ni baada ya kukamilisha ile ziara yake magharibi mwa Kenya. Je, hizi ziara za rais unazichukuliaje kisiasa?
Kisiasa lazima uwe na watu.
Ndio.
And Dr. William Ruto anajua kuwa na watu. Na kura zake huenda alizipata kwa sababu ya kuwa na watu. Na hakuna jinsi mbili, lazima uwe ground. So nataka kumkaribisha rais kuja eneo la Nyanza. Kuna summit tunafanya kule ya kuangazia vile hiyo eneo inatakiwa kusimamiwa na kuendelezwa mbele. Nataka kumshukuru kwa kusaidia wakulima wa miwa na zile factories zetu. Kwa sababu ukweli usemwe, hii inchi imekombolewa kutoka kuimport chakula, kuimport maize, kuimport sukari, na hiyo ni jitihada ya serikali hii kwa kupea watu mbolea, mbegu ambayo iko certified, na tukiendelea hivyo hivyo food security yetu itakuwa nzuri, our reserves za foreign exchange zitakuwa nzuri, na pia uchumi utaanza kuimarika. Na tukiangazia yale yatakuwa Nyanza, rais akija, hata mimi naelekea huko siku ya Alhamis, ndio tushikane mkono, because kama tunatengeneza East African Community kama economic block, je, mbona tusitengeneze counties zetu kama economic blocks? Na hivyo ndio tutaweza kuwa na economies of scale, tusaidiane, tufanye cross-selling, kuuziana sisi kwa sisi, ndio tuweze kuimarisha uchumi wetu. Na watu wa West Mugrango ambao na wasifu sana kwa kunipa nafasi kuwawakilisha, nataka kuhakikishia nitakuwa kule Kisumu Alhamisi mpaka Jumamosi, tuangazie ni nini tunahitaji, mchango wetu kama constituency na county yetu ya Nyamira ni gani, ili tuweze kuimarisha uchumi wetu wa Kenya.
Bila shaka, shukrani sana Bwana Steve Mogaka. Bwana Odede, hizi ziara za rais katika mikoa magharibi na Nyanza, wengi wanasema kwamba amehisi ground si nzuri Mount Kenya, sasa ana count on magharibi na Nyanza. Unaweka katika muktadha gani?
Lakini si ameishi sana Mount Kenya mbele.
Maka anajua barabara, anajua kila kitu.
Anyway, ukweli ni kwamba wakati ule mwingine ilikuwa ziara za rais katika eneo la Nyanza, lakini wakati huu ni Nyanza, wana Nyanza wenyewe wameorganize the investment conference, ambayo I think rais hakuwa part of kuorganize, but sasa amealikwa kama mgeni mkuu mheshimiwa, na wengine including corporate. So kwa wakati huu siwezi sema hii ni baadhi ya ziara zake za kisiasa Nyanza. Ile ingine inawezekana kwa sababu hiyo ilikuwa organized na timu yake. So hapo ndio tuna draw the line. But kugusia tu, rais ni rais ya Wakenya. Popote anataka kuenda Kenya hii, anakubaliwa kuenda. Akitaka kukaa hapo siku 3, anakubaliwa kukaa hapo. Hiyo ndio sababu tuko hata na state lodge kila mahali. Ukienda Mombasa kuna state lodge, Kakamega, Kisii, wherever. Manake akifika mahali ni boma yake, anaweza lala hapo. Lakini kama kuna watu kidogo wanasikia uchungu, ni sawa, wakati wetu wa uchungu pia ulikuwa na hatuku complain. Sasa wacha tuwe 1-1, ni draw.
Kusoma ni goal hiyo.
Ni goal hiyo.
Asante, acha nirudi kwake Mheshimiwa Nabii na Bwera. Tuna dakika 6, tuna mambo ni mengi kweli. Mwanzo tuanze na ile ziara ya rais kidogo tu.
Asante. Kwamba ni ukweli tulikuwa na rais kwa siku 6 kule magharibi. Na alitembea kwa kaunti 4, Kakamega, Vihiga, Busia, Bungoma, na alikuwa na kazi alikuwa anafanya. Unajua kuna mambo wa Kenya unishangaza sana. Mpaka leo watu wengi, hata wachanganuzi kama ninyi, hamuelewi kwa mfano bajeti ya Kenya inaanzia wapi. Unajua watu wanasema bunge inapitisha bajeti, lakini kuna mahali inapoanzia. Bajeti ya Kenya inaanzia kwa executive. Na hiyo executive cabinet hiyo inapitisha hiyo bajeti, ndio ikuje kwetu kwa bunge. Mwenyekiti wake anaitwa rais wa nchi ya Kenya. So you can imagine, anaambiwa kuna barabara inataka ijengwe, imewekwa bilioni 3 na haijui, haielewi. Atapitisha kitu, atume kitu kwa bunge yenye hajui. Lazima rais aelewe nchi yake iko namna gani. Unajua kuna watu hapa nchi walizoea wao peke yao mambo yao yajulikane, ya wengine ya
you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with our music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima hupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Vivian Degwa. As promised earlier, we will be having a conversation on SHA, that is the Social Health Insurance. And our topic of discussion is just to get to understand the state of the Social Health Authority. And I am joined by one Mr. Gilbert Mogambi Osoro. He is the head public education and awareness and is here on the show just to help us understand everything concerning the Social Health Authority. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Vivian, and thank you, KBC.
A much needed conversation. I'm sure you agree with me on that.
Totally.
Yeah. So let us just begin by you telling us what SHA exactly is, for someone who has no idea what SHA is.
Thank you, Vivian, and welcome, Kenyans. I want to take you and sensitize you what is the Social Health Authority. Allow me to take you down memory lane, because Winston Churchill once said that the farther you look into the past, the farther you see into the future. Social Health Authority is the successor of where we came from, that is the National Health Insurance Fund. Remember, the government of Kenya Kwanza, in its election manifesto, promised to implement 100% attainment of universal health coverage. To anchor those reforms in the statutes, there were a number of legislations that were passed. Key among them was the Primary Care Network, PCN Act. And this particular act provided for healthcare in level 2, which are health centers, and level 3 dispensaries, basically to offer a range of primary healthcare services, including inpatient, outpatient, screening, optical, amongst others. The next tier is the Social Health Insurance Fund, SHIF. Now, Social Health Insurance Fund is the successor of the defunct NHIF. For purposes of our viewers, NHIF became defunct on 22nd November 2024 when it ceased to exist as per the law established. And what we have now is the Social Health Insurance Fund that administers a range of benefit packages that our members can accrue. The other thing you need to know is the Emergency Chronic Critical Illness Fund, ECCIF. As the name suggests, emergency. When you look at the provisions of the Constitution of Kenya, Article 43, Sub-Article 1, it talks about that every Kenyan has the right to the highest attainable standard of health, including reproductive health. When you look at the Sub-Article 2, 43 Sub-Article 2, it goes further to state that Kenyans have the right to emergency treatment. In fulfillment of its constitutional obligation, the government passed the Emergency Critical Illness Fund to give a reprieve to Kenyans who are involved in road traffic accidents, who unfortunately have emergency medical needs. Instead of them having to put collateral for them to get treatment, they have the Emergency Chronic Critical Illness Fund. Those three funds that I've mentioned, the umbrella body is what we refer to as SHA. Vivian, you might have heard Kenyans saying SHA, Shifu, and many others.
Yeah.
But for the avoidance of doubt, the three acts which are administered under the umbrella of SHA, what is known as the Social Health Authority. Yes. Now, allow me to talk something on the rollout of SHA.
Okay.
If you recollect, last year, in the month of October, come October 1st, SHA rollout commenced across the entire country. And what was rolled out is the benefit package, which is very expansive. Unlike the 10 benefit packages that were previously administered by NHIF, under SHA, we have 18 benefit packages, an increment of 80%, which is a record in itself. Now, the other thing that was rolled out during the rollout was the new contribution structure. Allow me to delve a bit on the contribution structure.
Yes, please.
Under SHIF, contributors are classified into three broad categories. The first one being what we call salaried households. For the salaried households, these are people in gainful employment. They will contribute an equivalent of 2.75% of gross salary or wages. Now, the second category is the non-salaried households. These are mamambogas, boda, artisans, retirees, and many others. Now, under the SHIF Act, their contributions are equivalent to 2.75% of the assessed income through what we call proxy means testing. Now, proxy means testing is an economic indicator tool that assesses the income, assets, and liabilities of a member, and it's a tool that is used to determine two things. Number one, proxy means testing is used to determine the poor and vulnerable. Under the SHIF Act, the national government and the county government, for the first time, are obligated to set aside funds to pay for the poor and the vulnerable, whom we refer to as indigents. And for the national government, the money is apportioned from the exchequer. The third cadre of contributors is the sponsored programs.
Okay.
These are people basically who cannot afford to pay premiums, the poor of the poor. And as I said, the government is obligated to sponsor them, and the county government. Of particular note is that for purposes of identification of these poor and vulnerable, it is through proxy means testing. Now, this proxy means testing tool has been developed, among others, by the State Department Social Protection, the Ministry of Health, in collaboration with the county government. And the statutes indicate that SHA shall use the means testing tool, which will be reviewed periodically as we move on progressively. Yes.
Okay, well explained there. Now, there have been questions, from members of the public, those who were registered under NHIF, who are yet to register themselves on SHA, on whether the data is automatically transferred to NHIF, or do they have to register again?
Thank you, Vivian. That is a very important question. Remember, in the initial SHIF Act, Section 13, which talks on registration, it expressly stated that the former members of the National Health Insurance Fund were to undergo fresh registration. But the government is a caring government and a listening partner. Owing to petitions that were filed by members of the deaf and NHIF, there was a request that their data be automatically transitioned to SHA. And the government did an amendment to the Chief Act through Legal Gazette Notice number 147. And through that Gazette Notice, it expressly stated that the former members of the defunct NHIF were to be subjected to external verification by other state agencies. In this case, the state agency is the National Registration Bureau, which is the single source of truth. And I'm happy to report that their data was transitioned to SHA. But of particular note, I want to appeal to members of the public. We did write bulk SMSs informing them that their data had been transitioned. Additionally, we went further to appeal to those members to proceed and log in to the SHA portal to complete the process by updating details. And you might have noticed sometimes you hear people saying that they've gone to hospitals and their data cannot be seen.
Yeah.
Part of the reason is that some of these members who are transitioned have never logged into the SHA portal to update their details. And when I talk of updating, we are talking of confirming their details, onboarding of the declared dependents. And when I talk of dependents, we are referring to the spouse, biological children arising out of that marriage, or adopted children that they have taken through a court order or a deed. Yeah. And I'm to appeal to Kenyans. When you look at our database, God has been exceedingly good to us. We have 18.9 million members. But you note the number of declared dependents is around about 3.94 million. When you look at the average size of a family in this country, as per the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the average size of a family is 3.8, which we round off to 4. So ordinarily, in an ideal scenario, we should be expecting about 68 million dependents. Now, they say data is the new oil, and I say that in God we trust, other people must bring data. My appeal to viewers who are listening to me this morning, please proceed to the SHA portal. We've made the declaration of dependence very easy. It's done through the online portal, afyayangu.go.ke. Proceed to submit the required documentation. One, if you are married, a copy of the marriage certificate. Number two, if you have children, please scan copies of either birth notification for children below the age of 6 months, a birth certificate for children above the age of 6 months. For persons with disability, children with disabilities, there is a copy, a certificate that is issued by the National Council for Persons with Disability, amongst others, which you will onboard as you declare your dependence. Yeah.
Okay. Clearly, most people haven't, onboarded their dependents, looking at the numbers that you've just mentioned. And I've actually, while I was speaking to one of my producers, he mentioned that, while putting, while declaring some of the dependents or onboarding some of his dependents, as a family man, one of their daughters has just gotten to the age of 18, but they don't have their ID just yet, so they were not able to onboard the daughter on it. So maybe how to go about that. For example, if that daughter, God forbid, needs medical attention at this time, clearly they will not be covered by SHA. So how to go about such?
Thank you, Vivian. The process of declaration of dependence is very easy. As I mentioned earlier on, you only need to log into the Afya Yangu portal. But for children above the age of 18 years, and currently you realize children are in school up to the age of 24, 25 years. SHA has provided a reprieve. In SHA we say, Mungu akileta mtoto, analeta na sahani yake. Sahani yake ni SHA. So what we've done, those parents who have children above the age of 18 years need to first of all ensure those children are enrolled to the SHA portal. Remember, under the new statutes, all persons need to be enrolled. So first of all, they have to be enrolled as young adults and get a SHA number. Number 2, they need to get documentation indicating that these children of the age of 18 years and above, up to the age of 24, are in a full-time post-secondary institution. They could be in a technical university, they could be in a college, and it should be a full-time college. Thereafter, they can proceed and either visit the nearest point of service or onboard those documents online for purposes of allowing these children to get access to healthcare services. As I said, the Bible tells me in the book of Hosea 4 verses 6 that my people perish because of lack of knowledge. We are here today to help you understand the SHA processes, including the declaration of dependence, including registration, including proxy means testing, which is the tool that is used to determine indigents and premiums for the non-salaried households.
Okay. What are some of the services, the range of services that are under the Social Health Authority?
Thank you. Allow me to delve deep to take Kenyans through a journey on the expanded scope of services. When you look at the expanded scope of services, there are 18. And I want to tell Kenyans that SHA offers services under 3 tiers. The first tier being the Primary Healthcare Fund, or PCN, Primary Care Networks. Under the primary care networks, we have 4 services that are available. The first one being the outpatient services. Under outpatient, we are talking of treatment of chronic conditions, consultations, requisite laboratory investigations, vaccinations, as per the Kenya External Vaccine Program. We are talking of outpatient procedures, dressing, suturing, amongst others, management of mental condition, health and wellness. You cannot talk of universal health coverage without talking of promotive, preventive healthcare, and that's why we talk of wellness. Finally, we are talking of guidance and counseling and antenatal and postnatal care. Now, allow me to share this with Kenyans. The tariff for the outpatient primary care, what we call the provider payment mechanism. And in this case, we are talking of the global budget at a rate of 900 shillings per person per annum. I repeat, 900 shillings per person per annum. Now, access rules, where do you get these services? Members can get these services in level 2, 3, and select level 4 healthcare providers, which are primary healthcare referral facilities. Allow me to quickly take you through the primary healthcare inpatient medical services. Now, the scope of cover includes, of course, management of diseases while one is admitted. It also includes consultation charges, room and nursing care, laboratory investigation, radiology examinations, we are talking of X-ray amongst others, drug administration and dispensing, blood and blood products. And the tariff, or what we call per diem, is Kenya shillings 2,240 per day. And this is in level 2 and 3. And the access rules, you can be in hospital for a period of 180 days, what we call aggregate limits of liabilities. We also have screening services, which will be done as part of the initial assessment to identify potential health concerns. We are talking of arresting disease before it becomes terminal. And that's why a lot of emphasis has been put on preventive services. And the screening is for both common conditions that are financed and outpatient services, and targeted screening for the top 4 cancers with the highest incidences in this country. We are talking of prostate, we are talking of cervical, colon, and breast cancer, and this will be rolled in year 2 after maturity of the fund. Finally, we have the optical health services, which is eye health, and the scope of cover includes eye health education, wellness education, eye treatment, and prescription for refractive errors. We are giving glasses, and the tariff is 1,000 per household, strictly for beneficiaries below the age of 18 years, and it's available in level 2 to 4 facilities. That is PHC. And we've seen the 4 benefit packages. Allow me now to take you through the benefits that are financed under the Social Health Insurance Fund, which is the successor of the defunct NHIF. I'll move quickly because of time.
Yes, please.
Number 1 is the outpatient. Number 2, we are looking at the inpatient services. Number 3 is the maternity benefit package. Number 4 is the renal care therapies. And I didn't mention the scope of cover has been increased. Previously, under NHIF, we used to have hemodialysis, whereby we used to reimburse at 9,500 comprehensively. Under the new regime, it's been increased by 12% to 10,650, and we've introduced peritoneal dialysis. We have the highly patronized, the surgical benefit package, and when we are talking of surgical, we are talking of major, minor, and a specialized organ transplant, open heart surgery, total hip replacement, amongst others. We have the oncology benefit services for cancer treatment, mental wellness. Under COVID-19, we realized that mental health has become a challenge in this country. We have diagnostic imaging, including MRI, CT scan, PET-CT, and many others, oral health, and finally, we have overseas treatment or foreign treatment, which is provided for patients who cannot be treated ordinarily within the territorial boundaries of Kenya, who seek further treatment in overseas jurisdictions, most commonly it's in India. Finally, allow me to talk something on the Emergency Chronic Critical Illness Fund, which is provided for among the acts that Parliament provided. It provides for 4 benefit packages. Number 1 is ambulance evacuation services. Number 2 is chronic illness services. Number 3 is assistive devices. Number 4 is critical care services. And last but not the least is palliative healthcare services.
Okay.
Allow me to say this. How does this benefit package meet the needs of Kenyans? I know many people have been asking that question. Number 1 is universal coverage. Ensures access to both primary healthcare services, specialized healthcare services. Number 2, equitable access. We are saying there is equity in contribution, 2.75% across board. We are talking of not punishing the low-income earners, but what we are saying, the high-income earners will support the low-income earners by contributing 2.75%. Financial protection. The aim is to reduce out-of-pocket catastrophic healthcare expenditure, which improvises about 1 million families into poverty. We are talking of comprehensive care. It covers preventive, curative, and rehabilitative care, and improved accessibility nationwide. And you can register through either the SHA service points, and for that matter, we have 70 branch offices. We are available at Huduma centers and in some satellite offices. Thank you.
All right. Now, clearly, you know, with the range of services that you've just pointed out and the benefits that members should be getting out of SHA, it is something that should be beneficial and should be a good thing for Kenyans. But why is there public outcry? I'm sure you are aware that, you know, the people are not saying good things about SHA. You know, most people are saying it's not working, and there's public outcry overall. Just why is that the case? And are you aware of that?
Thank you, Vivian. We are aware. Indeed, we are aware of some of the challenges that have arisen, but I want to assure the public that SHA is working overdrive to address their needs. We are a listening partner. Perhaps allow me to delve a bit deeper on why we are having a bit of challenges. The first one being declaration of dependence. I did mention at the commencement of this program that we have scenarios whereby the principal members have registered, but unfortunately, due to one reason or another, they forgot to declare their dependents. That is the spouse and children. They only remember that they cannot access services at the point either the spouse or children are seeking services. And sometimes it has happened, we have gotten calls of people admitted in hospitals, And when we query our database, we realize that they had not been onboarded. This is very common, especially for the former members of NHIF who were transitioned to SHA and they were requested to update their details.
Yeah.
The other thing we have noted is that sometimes when employers submit the monthly payroll byproduct, what we call the e-slip or the payroll registration number, PRN number, some of the people who make returns capture or miss one digit of an ID. And as such, you find that they've made returns using the correct name but the wrong ID number, and it is rejected in the system. The third reason is sometimes when employers fail to remit in the time and manner prescribed. The date due for SHA premiums is on or before the 9th of the following month. This is February. We expect February contributions to be paid to SHA accounts on or before 9th of March 2025. The other thing we have and which we are addressing is incomplete information. We have employers who remit the monthly payroll byproduct and they remit through what we call real-time gross settlement, RTGS, or electronic funds transfer, EFT. There is a narration that is provided for, and some of them erroneously fail to indicate the unique identifier. In this case, the payroll registration number that is recognized in our portal. So you end up having scenarios whereby payments have indeed been made, but they are incomplete or hanging in the system. To address some of these challenges, we have taken a proactive stance whereby our registration and compliance officers have been tasked to follow up with such employers with a view of undertaking reconciliation. We are also doing bulk SMSs and emails to employers, telling them to ensure that they submit the byproduct in the manner and time prescribed. Above all, on a week ago, we have come up with a query product whereby you can go to the SHA portal, log in, and it will be able to tell you the status of your contribution. We are currently sharing and we are telling all our members to currently check their contribution status proactively so that we can arrest any challenges on time. I want to assure the public that the SHA administration is working round the clock. We hear you, and it's our hope and prayer we'll be able to address all the issues that you've raised in the fullness of time.
Yeah, you've clearly stated the benefits for chronic and critical illness patients, you know, and we've also seen complaints from some dialysis patients who are complaining that, you know, when they go to some of these facilities and their members, you know, and they've registered for SHA and they're paying, you know, and when they get there, they are required to now pay cash. You've actually even talked about the benefits being increased from what NHIF was giving, especially for the dialysis. There's an increase. But where is the problem? Is it a disconnect between SHA and the facilities, the hospitals? Or where exactly could there be a problem in that?
Thank you, Vivian. I hear you. We have instances whereby, as you correctly said, some patients perhaps are turned away. I want to look at it in a twofold way. Operational, where I've said either their contributions have not been updated, that they are not members of regular and good standing. When we describe a member of SHA, he is one who has remitted contributions up to date. But I want to look at it from the hospital side. Because we have provided the hospital portal whereby the hospital can be able to tell who is a member of regular and good standing. And the contracts that we've signed with all healthcare providers are very clear that they shall offer services as per the scope of cover. In this case, we are talking of dialysis unit. They are supposed to offer services unless otherwise. So in event our members are turned away, we have a quality assurance department that looks at issues to do with the scope of services, whether the healthcare providers are adhering to the scope of services. And I want to tell the public that SHA has gone out of his way. We are currently reimbursing claims, and I'm privy to the fact that we will be paying claims, and providers are receiving money as we speak currently, up to 31st December 2024. So providers are implored upon to offer the scope of services. And we have offices across the country. In event you are unable to get services, you can visit the nearest point of service, and we are talking of 70. We are available in the counties, sub-counties. We have also set up offices at some healthcare provider level 4, 5, and 6 hospitals across the country. The other thing they can do, they can reach us on the toll-free line. They can call and make inquiries.
What's the line?
It is 08,000 620 720.
08,000 620 720.
Yes.
Okay.
The other thing I want to tell our members is that knowledge is power. It's imperative they log into the SHA website to get the scope of cover. Because it is when they're equipped with such knowledge, they can know what is their entitlement. It's very imperative. We're also doing feedback surveys, whereby we do baseline surveys to assess the quality of care that is administered to our members. It's not enough to get health care, but it must be quality health care that will translate to good outcomes.
Sure. Yeah. So you do monitor the effectiveness of health services.
There is a whole department called Quality Assurance that does clinical audits. They do random sampling, they interrogate the claims submitted, access services, authorization, what I call prior approval. When hospitals launch requests, their clinical team checks to confirm that it conforms to the treatment plan. Yes.
All right. Okay, and on that note, taking a break. Don't go too far because we'll come back to this. Okay, I've been asked to continue. So maybe what determines the type of care?
Now, let me answer that. First of all, we need to understand what we call the level of care that is administered in this country. And it's primary care up to level 6, which are teaching and referral hospital.
Yeah.
Under networks or primary care centers, which are in level 2, health centers and dispensaries, their key is that they provide preventive, promotive, and basic curative services. They serve as the first stop of members seeking outpatient services. And the scope of service that they offer include outpatient care, consultation, diagnosis, and minor treatment, management of acute and chronic conditions, diabetes, hypertension, screening services, routine checkups. They offer vaccination and mental health. The other thing they do is minor outpatient procedures. When you cannot get sufficient treatment and they feel that you require further treatment, then vertical facilities, what is known as secondary care facilities. That is facilities in level 4 and 5, which include county referral hospital. And these county and sub-county hospitals provide most advanced care than primary care centers, and patients are referred here for specialized outpatient and inpatient care. The scope of services for secondary care services include advanced outpatient and inpatient services, surgical procedures. We are talking of cesarean sections, orthopedic surgeries, amongst others, comprehensive maternity, neonatal and child health care services, renal care therapies. We are talking of dialysis and the kidney treatment, cancer care treatment, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, mental health treatment and psychiatric services, medical imaging and diagnostics, That is, we are talking of CT scans, MRI, ultrasound. Specialized care, we are talking of cardiology, neurology, orthopedics. And as I said, these are in level 4, 5. Now, we have the last one, which is level 6, which is basically offering specialized services, the entire scope of specialized services. And when we talk of level 6, we are talking of facilities like the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospitals, Kenyatta National Referral Teaching Hospital, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Referral and Teaching Hospital, and many others. Now, these ones offer specialized access services. Yes, now finally, emergency chronic critical care. And I said that for the issues of emergency chronic care, for emergencies, all Kenyans are entitled to payment. Now, irrespective of the payment status. Now, when it comes to chronic critical illness funds, it is SHA who have deployed. My appeal to you this morning is that for patients who ail from chronic critical illness, diabetes, kindly, I implore you to register to SHA so that you can get this life-saving medication, and even in liabilities, you'll have a fallback position.
To what extent exactly is SHA funding, medical needs of its members or the patients? To what extent is it funding? We know that at some point it was, when one is admitted, it used to cover just the bed fees. Is SHA funding?
Thank you, Vivian, for that very important question. SHA is catering for the medical needs of Kenyans. And to the extent, I want to say comprehensive. Why do I? You can see that the scope of cover has been extended from the 10 benefit package to 18 benefit packages. And it has witnessed the introduction of an additional 8 benefit packages that were not there. Allow me to just mention briefly. We've come from a regime whereby we did not have the critical care. I'm talking of ICU, HDU, which is currently being covered. Under ICU and HDU, SHA reimburses as per the daily, what we call the rebate, daily rebate. A case in time, if you are in a level 6 facility, then SHA is obligated to reimburse the daily rebate, which is 4,480. And we are able to cover that for a period of 180 days, which is the limits of liabilities. We are talking of assistive devices that were never there in the past. When we talk of assistive devices, you are talking of wheelchairs, crutches, pressure stockings. These are covered under SHA. We are talking of screening services. And I did indicate, for the first time, SHA will be catering for screening services, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, PSA counts, cervical, and many others. We are talking of evacuation, emergency evacuation. Evacuation from a point of a road traffic accident, stabilization, and transportation to the nearest empaneled and contracted healthcare facilities. We are talking of optical, dispensing of glasses for refractive errors. We are talking of dental treatment, root canal, tooth extraction, amongst many others. These are things that were not previously there. And because the government listens, Kenyans petitioned the government during public participation to include this range of services so that they do not suffer out-of-pocket catastrophic healthcare expenditure. Yes.
All right. Okay, I hear you on that. Now, the United States of America was a key supporter of Kenya's programs on combating different illnesses like HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria as well. Now that they have withdrawn from that, what are we doing as a country, or what are you doing as SHA to ensure that some of this medication will not be lacking. For example, ARVs, which are life-saving medication, and they are lifelong medications. So what measures have you put in place to ensure that we are not going to have an outage of some of these medications?
Thank you, Vivian, for your information. Those are the vertical programs that were financed through the ministry. HIV treatment, we are talking of ARVs, tuberculosis, malaria, amongst others. I want to assure Kenyans that all is not lost. Those ailments are covered under SHA. Issues to do with malaria, medical inpatient, issues to do with HIV are covered. Issues to do with tuberculosis are covered. I remember under SHA we used to have a program that was, we had a partnership with tuberculosis patients whereby they had a sponsor who used to pay for their premiums. What I want to tell Kenyans, for those patients who ail from those ailments, please, please, please ensure that you enroll with SHA so that you do not miss on the extended scope of coverage.
So they're well sorted under that. They should not fear of, you know, them getting to a point where they're going for medication and the medication is no longer there.
We say at SHA, bima bora afya nyumbani.
We'll take your word on that. So probably as we almost come to an end of ensure the quality of healthcare services across all hospitals. Talked about the surveys that you do, but just how entirely do you ensure the quality of healthcare services?
I hear you. To administer care, but at SHA we say the care must meet the internationally accepted standards of quality of care. Indicates we have the quality assurance department. This department is made up of clinical officers and nurses. And what they do is to review the nature of treatment that is being administered to our members. They check the clinical notes. They visit the healthcare facilities to confirm that they are offering the range of cover that they signed up to. The other thing they do clinical and service delivery benchmarks.
How often are these checks done, you know, and do they go to all facilities under SHA?
Very important. We have quality assurance officers deployed at all 70 service points of SHA. And they have what we call a surveillance program, whereby they go to the hospitals to do two things. Number one, they do what we call hospital head count of the patients admitted at a facility on a given day. Number two, they review the clinical notes to confirm that it aligns with the treatment plan and the standard operating procedures. So they do it
oftenly?
Very oftenly.
Okay.
In fact, if not daily, they do it 3 times or 4 times in a week.
Okay.
So you will always see them visiting patients, talking to patients and asking them the nature of treatment offered to collect feedback for purposes of ensuring the quality of care.
Okay.
The other thing is the benefit package and standardized protocols. To guarantee the quality of care, SHA has a structured benefit package to cover a comprehensive range of services from preventive to specialized care. These services follow clinical guidelines, standard treatment protocols to ensure consistency and effectiveness. Number 3 is strategic purchasing of healthcare services. I hope we have time.
We should be finishing.
When we're talking of strategic contracting and provider performance monitoring tools, the SHA contracts, both public and private, ensure that we have a wide network of facilities across urban and rural areas. We also do baseline surveys.
Okay.
We do customer satisfaction index to get feedback from our loyal customers on the scope of services that they've received.
All right. As we wind up now, we need to wind up. My last question to you, and I want you to answer me in the fewest of words. What is the state of the Social Health Authority as it stands right now?
Thank you for that very important question. The State of Social Health Authority.
In the fewest of words.
We have started and we are progressing well. What I want to tell Kenyans, UHC is not an event, it is a continuous journey.
Okay.
We have started and we are moving on well with their support and prayers. In the fullness of time, we'll be able to attain 100% attainment of universal health coverage.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Osoro, for joining us for this conversation. Now, that was Mr. Gilbert Mugambi Osoro, who is the head public education and awareness, and he was here to just shed light on the Social Health Authority. Remember, he's given out a free toll line. If you have any questions, if you have any issues concerning SHA, you can get through to them. It was 0800 2720. So you can reach out to them if you've got any queries concerning the Social Health Authority.
They can also reach us through our website, and we have a chat bot there. They can send questions through our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We can always respond.
All right.
We can carry on with this conversation there.
Okay. This is where we end Good Morning Kenya for today. Thank you so much for staying tuned. My name is Vivian Dagwa. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Goodbye.
Simfungulie huyu.
Ati?
Nimesema sifunguliwe huyu. Sasa basi nakupa ruksa. Nenda ukaishi huko.
Toroka. Rudi mafichoni, Kalume, utakuja shikwa.
Wewe usinikumbushe Sudi.
Nini mpenzi?
Wewe ukitaka kujua mtu mzima na meno 32 nitetee na mpenzi.
Kini? Hakuna cha lakini. Nilikuwepo, sikuambiwa.
Habarisha wanakisiwa wote kwamba yeyote atakayeniletea taarifa za aliko Kalume nitampatia donge nono.
Hebu toka nje. Toa ama nikumalize. Simama. Simama hapo.
Nataka uambie hawa watu lile jambo ulikuja kusema hapa jana usiku.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
Staying fit and healthy is as important today as it's ever been. Today, we're all about smartwatches and fitness trackers and living a healthier life with wearables. If you need that little extra motivational push, get in gear for Shift. Oftentimes, the sleeker and more comfortable alternative to clip-on heart rate trackers is the smartwatch. For many, they are a lifestyle product, but in the medical world, they have the potential to be a lot more than just that. How well do they work, and do medical experts take them seriously? We got the chance to meet someone with first-hand experience, Sasha Nivelle, whose smartwatch might have just saved his life.
Sasha Nivelle's smartwatch went above and beyond recently. It prevented a possible stroke. He was using it mainly for sports. When it noticed irregularities in his heartbeat, Nivelle knew to act. But when he visited the doctor, he was given the all clear.
I went to the cardiologist, who performed a long-term ECG, but didn't find anything. I thought it was an error, so I switched off the alarm because it was kind of annoying.
That could have had serious consequences for the 48-year-old, because the smartwatch was right. A second ECG at Bonn University Hospital confirmed what the gadget had picked up.
The standard ECG then revealed that I have something called atrial fibrillation. I was asked several times in the cardiology department why my watch hadn't sounded the alarm, and so I had to tell them again and again that I had actually disabled the alarm myself.
Selbstständig ausgemacht habe, diesen Alarm.
Sebastian Zimmer, a cardiologist at the University Hospital in Bonn, has had good experiences with smartwatch health apps. He's convinced the potential is huge, especially for prevention.
The data that these smartwatches collect, the ECG reading, they are very reliable. The most common heart rhythm disorder, arrhythmia, is called atrial fibrillation, and it's the leading cause of stroke worldwide. And this can be detected by smartwatches, and then if we know that a patient has it, we can initiate treatment to prevent stroke.
Sasha Nivelle has been in treatment ever since and now wears his smartwatch regularly, which was a pretty good idea. His heart started playing up again and the app was the first to notice.
Jedes Mal hat sie sehr zuverlässig.
It signaled reliably every time. You're having atrial fibrillation again right now. Maybe you should contact your doctors.
Apps and smartwatches can't replace a doctor, but they can certainly help by gathering valuable data, especially when it comes to cardiovascular diseases, which cause over 18 million deaths a year globally. Wearables and AI can also help reduce risks by motivating us to eat healthy or exercise regularly too. I certainly don't do this all that often. Do you? AI assistants can ease our day-to-day. Take the AI pin, for example, a smart mini computer. It answers messages, sends you reminders, takes photos, plays music, and more.
Keeping your heart healthy could be so easy. But let's face it, it's not, is it? But maybe AI can help.
How much protein?
A half a cup of almonds has 15 grams of protein.
Soon, this AI will be able to scan food and list its nutrients, useful for those looking to live a healthier life.
Getting information on what you eat is incredibly important because most people aren't aware of what they eat on a regular basis. They had breakfast 2 hours ago and perhaps didn't realize how many calories are in that muffin or in the pancakes that they consumed. And then if they get an update on a regular basis throughout the day, I'm sure that this will make them more aware of their lifestyle choices.
There are many ways to find out what constitutes a healthy diet.
I'm gonna eat it.
Enjoy it.
But does talking to AI really make a difference? The AI pin, for one, is hands-free, no smartphone required.
The main restriction for our patients today is that the smartphones, etc., they're available, but the interactions with our surroundings and the devices to record this is limited.
AI devices can warn users when food is overly unhealthy or contains allergens. And in future, it could follow what you're consuming and keep track of nutrients.
You have had 22 grams of protein today.
But how effective it will be is still unclear. At Bonn University's Hospital Cardiac Center, patients with calcified heart valves are admitted every day. It's not only a consequence of age and genetics, but also of poor nutrition or little exercise. Without treatment, the consequences of the illness can be fatal. AI is becoming increasingly important for prevention. For example, implanted defibrillators transmit data to the clinic daily. If there are any abnormalities, the AI sounds the alarm. AI-supported data on nutrition and health helps too.
The interaction between a patient and a physician will become more intimate because we get more data available, and the choices that our recommendations that we give to the patient can be based on a larger data set.
But as with all applications of this kind, data protection is a concern. Manufacturers assure consumers that nothing is recorded unintentionally and that data isn't sold to third parties. But the fact that data is often stored in the cloud is worrying, because it could fall into the wrong hands.
So If you're looking to use AI assistants, make sure to consider the data you're putting out there.
Ich mache mir Gedanken die Datensicherheit.
Thinking about data security, you have to weigh up how much it really benefits you. It's one of the reasons I switched it off back then. If it doesn't help me, I'll leave it alone.
Let's assume you're wearing a smartwatch. How does it actually measure your heart rate? There are two different methods: optical pulse measurement with light and a heart rate sensor that records electrical activity. More on that now.
When it comes to accurate heart rate monitoring, we always recommend the classic chest straps. It's an electrophysiological recording. They essentially detect the heartbeats electrically, so they get a direct recording of the heartbeat. But the problem with these, of course, is that you can't wear it all day or all week.
Smartwatches, on the other hand, are much more comfortable. The heartbeat is detected via optical sensor, which emits a light signal to measure the pulse wave. But it's not quite as accurate.
The light is then absorbed by hemoglobin, a component of the blood from which we can derive the heart rate. But as it's a light source, everything that can interfere